this meeting of the Bristol Budget Committee to order at 6:08 p.m. on Tuesday, January 30th. I think our first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Who hasn't done it yet?
I'll do it.
And Charlie, please lead us.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, new business is reconsideration of any budget section that we want to bring up during the meeting. Before the meeting, there were interest expressed in 4 sections. And the first one we'll handle is police, since we have our police chief here right now. So let me make sure I do this right. I think I have to make a motion to reopen the section so that we can talk about it. Why can't I find what I'm looking for? Hold on a second.
It's in the big.
No, I got it. It's okay. I just gotta get to the, I'm
Page
gonna look at the
6.
line. Above the library, it is.
And they're in numerical order.
Yeah, so what's the number again? 4210?
4210.
Yeah, I just didn't go high enough. I will make 4220, here we go. I'll make a motion to reopen consideration of the police budget section, which is 4210, in the current amount of $1,336,091.77. Sue, can you second that since?
Oh, I'll second it, yes.
Because it's your,
Oh, well.
I'm gonna turn it over to you kind of in a little bit.
Well, yeah.
So anyone is welcome to ask questions, but Sue is the one who asked for it to be put on the agenda, so I'm kind of hoping she'll drive the bus for a couple of minutes.
Well, hopefully.
Because Les is on her way.
What's that?
Les is on her way. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well.
I don't know if we're gonna have questions. If you do answer, I'm gonna ask you to move
I'll
it so
move it,
that you'll be on the microphone.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had any questions, so.
Chief, please, thank you.
Cut you off.
Oh, no, let him go first, because actually.
There's nobody appreciates the police department and the fire department any more than I do. I started going to town meetings regularly in 2003. That's when I retired and I came back home.
Yeah.
And I have supported almost everything that the town has brought up. Even to long before the library got approved, I visited the police station. And there was no doubt that that place was a disaster. It shouldn't have been a dog compound, let alone a police station. And I supported every way I could improving it, and it didn't happen, and I wasn't, maybe I didn't make enough noise. And I'm not as capable as these 3 gentlemen, and so I'm not as capable. All I know is I have supported it, and last year when the fire engine was paid for and the library was paid for, I promised the chief prior to you, Jim, that I would support that, and I did. I showed up at town meeting and I spoke for it. I felt miserable. I was just out of the hospital. But I got there and I supported it. I stood up and said so. I brought 6 votes with me that wouldn't come to town meeting normally to vote for that. And I have no regrets about it. I did tell Chief that I thought it should be a rectangle, very plain, never mind so fancy. I'm not trying to build a monument to anything. I'm just trying to safely and efficiently store the services we need.
Yeah.
I wish I had been a little more vocal about that rectangle, one pitch of the roof, make it as simple as possible. But we got a building that I'm not ashamed of, but I know we gotta pay for.
Yeah.
And I think it's as good as this town could give us. And I say us, even though the fire department, police department is gonna be in it, it's as good as this town could give us.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled with what we got. I even spoke strongly for the radiant heat. I really wanted that. That building cost a lot of money. We're gonna be paying for that for a long time. I told the chief and I told you early this summer that I wouldn't vote for a new T-shirt for anybody, and I meant it. That didn't mean I'm not supporting raises. But I know one thing, my ability to pay more and more is getting limited. It's been a long time since I had a major raise. And 60% of the people in this town are in the same position that I am. They're hurting. That's not your fault. This is a national problem. But if there's something I can do in the town of Bristol to slow it up a little bit, I'm all for it. I voted against the police department budget, not because I don't think you're a good value.
Yeah.
I really do. I think Bristol has got one of the most cooperative, most supportive, friendly police and fire departments there is. And I've said that everywhere, here and anywhere else. We're lucky we have the police department we have. When my daughter came up here, there's no way you guys could know who she is. But when my garage door was open and a car was there and they were taking things out of it, the policeman said, "That's not the car that belongs here." He went and he found out who it was. Thank you and thank him.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased that you're there. But I just can't afford the budget. 10% this year and 10% more, even more next year. I can ill afford it. And I'm better off than an awful lot of people. I haven't got the wisdom to tell you how to correct it, how to prevent it. I listened to a lot of what Dave Carr used to say. And he was a good friend of mine. And I'm not trying to tell anybody how many policemen we need. I'm not trying to tell anyone how many firemen we need. I'm not trying to say that there's a particular way to control that budget a little bit. But I know one thing. I only got so much to give up, and I'm better off than most. So I voted against the police budget, and I voted against the fire department budget. I told both you and the captain I was gonna, and I meant it. I wouldn't vote for another T-shirt.
Yeah. I don't hold it against you. I know that you've always supported us and that you appreciate us. You thank us all every time I see you. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying. I understand that unfortunately the taxes have gone up
terribly, and it's not your fault that they have.
I will say on the raises piece for me, I understand that nobody wants their taxes to go up, but unfortunately, our guys do feel the same thing. The cost of living has gone up for everybody. Police have been in a problem with hiring people long before the rest of the country was. We are 10 plus years for not being able to hire anybody. Probably every department in the state has an opening. State police has a ton of, I think that last I heard they're up to 80 people that they are looking to hire. Because of that, the cost of hiring somebody has gone through the roof. We had somebody this week give their resignation letter because he can go to Tilton PD for $10 more an hour, and he said, love working for the town, love working for the police department, but $20,000 a year is a lot of money. So even with raises, that's still not going to touch what they can offer. So we've been feeling it. We are feeling it. I'm not saying we need to go up $10 an hour, but trying to find a balance. We hire a brand new police officer for $21 an hour, or you could go and work for my buddy who owns a landscape company brand new at 18 years old for 25 bucks an hour, or go to Freudenberg for 28 bucks an hour. Unfortunately, the economy has gone crazy. We've got one of our officers who's grew up in Bristol, lived in Bristol, just before COVID, pre-approved for a house. He's got one kid, planning a second kid on the way, and COVID hits and can't afford to buy a house, and essentially given up and lives in a 2-bedroom apartment with a family of 4 because they can't. His wife works but can't afford to purchase a house. And it, unfortunately, is the way that everything is right now. So that's why I strongly believe that the raises are needed. Unfortunately, our cost of living has gone, and I completely side with you. I'm not saying I don't side with you. You're a retired person that's not seeing an increase unless whatever investments you might have made money off of, but
I wasn't that smart.
yeah.
What investments I made weren't wise.
But I do understand what you're saying. I don't hold anything ever against you. I know you're a very nice man and wouldn't hold your opinion of wanting to save some money.
I just want to say one more thing. I appreciate what we have in Bristol. I have a piece of property in Hill where I just play.
Yeah.
That's all as far as for play. And someday I'm gonna have to give that up to be able to live. But I went down there at 4 o'clock in the morning one day to go hunting. I parked my car, got out. I came back at noontime, so I'd be out of the woods just 2 minutes before I have to be. And when I looked at my car, it looked funny. 4 tires and wheels missing. I called the police and I didn't even get a response.
Yeah.
Other than take me and send me some pictures.
Yeah.
I know what we have in Bristol and I appreciate it.
My same thing. My dad has property. Well, he didn't have property. He had a cousin who passed away, and he was the head of it. And I told him, if you don't get that stuff out of there, that's all going to be stolen. And it was stolen within days, and same exact thing.
They break into my buildings down there, I go down to the town hall, nothing happens. And anyways, I appreciate the police, I really do.
I know that.
Is there anything you can tell me there's some way in the budget that you can lessen something else?
So I was told raises, the raises are the priority. Selectmen raises are the priority. They're the priority for me, major problem. So I went through this budget 100% with that on my mind to cut. So I took a higher paid position, a second lieutenant's position, cut that, didn't cut the whole position, but cut that back to a patrolman's position, which then dropped that salary probably $15,000 to $20,000, and then reassigned some of those duties to 2 other, to our lieutenant that we still have, and then our detective sergeant, gave him some of those duties. Then I went through and found whatever I could. I brought up tires was one thing. We've done a pretty good job on cruiser maintenance with tires. So I felt like because of that, we had some savings there. So I forget now what I cut it, but I want to say it was
30 by 30%.
Yeah. So there was a couple of other spots too that I found. Then there were some that I really felt should have been increased. However, I understand that a 10% raise is a lot of money. So we're making do this year. Training was one of them. Our training hours have gone through the roof of what we have to do for training right now. And we don't have to send people to specialty trainings. However, we really should be sending our officers to specialty trainings, and those are what cost us a lot of money. I mean, to send one officer to one training is probably close to $1,000 for that training now. which I don't agree with by any means, but unfortunately it's the way that it is. So this year, knowing that I did not increase that line, felt that we'll send only a couple people to some of those trainings, and then next year maybe try and get some more money and send the ones who don't go to training to one, or figure something out over the next 2 years.
Is there any way, instead of a new vehicle every year, we could go a year and a quarter?
No, I don't think so, only because every year isn't necessarily every year. Every year is close to 2 years by the time you get everything done. By the time you get the car, get everything installed, you're already talking, like if we were to buy it at right after town meeting, you're talking October before we're actually getting into a cruiser. That's if we can buy one that we don't have to specialty order. Right now, we bought from a company in Florida the last 3 cruisers, or not Florida, Massachusetts, sorry. The last 3 cruisers. So we're kind of on their list now that if we call right now and they've got something coming in, they'll probably hold it for us because we've got a good relationship with them. But we're battling against towns that are purchasing 40 cars from them. So one car is just a minor thing. So I don't think it's a smart decision. I think that the cruiser that we would be getting rid of this year is pretty close to on death's doors anyways. I did express to Christina, because they're looking for a town car. You're gonna have to put some money into it, but you might be able to make it last the year. But it's in rough shape now. We use it as minimal as possible.
You were supposed to put the money into it.
So we were actually we were supposed to get, according to the capital improvements, we were supposed to get 2 cars this year. They asked, is that something that we could bypass? And I did agree that was something that I felt that we could skip over this year. I find the cost of cruisers to be absolutely ridiculous. We went from $28,000 to $48,000 in a matter of 3 years. The price to install stuff is ridiculous. We're gonna fall into needing to replace radios pretty soon, and the price to replace radios is gonna be $10,000 to $15,000 per radio at that point. So I think that, I'm not saying it's gonna be next year, but we do need to start. I'm surprised it has never been on the capital improvements plan to begin with. But that's also with the grant stuff. That's kind of why we applied for the grants, because our radars, they were purchased when I started here 17 years ago. We bought like 3 of them that year and then 1 the next year. So they're needing to be done. Right now, the state grant, it used to be 50-50, and now the state's paying far more than that, which is rare. And when I called them and talked to him about the Warren article, he did say that they expect next year it to stay the same. So the feds will pay more. So I hope to get more stuff that they're going to pay for us. But to answer the question, this year, no, I don't think that we can skip the cruiser. We were set for 2. And I think that we can definitely get by with the 1, but that's it. The car that we have right now currently doesn't even have that would be getting rid of, doesn't have a radio in it right now. We had to take that out and put it into a different car. It's because it's in rough shape. We decided that radio, but also we don't use it. We're not using it for really patrol right now. We're using it for like a detail or fireworks, or if somebody were to go to training, that's the car that they take, not to take one of the other cars.
I certainly wish I had the wisdom to think of a way, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of people really hurting. And it's not your fault. I know it's a national problem. But if someone doesn't get a hold of it somewhere, We're all paying it.
Mhm.
But it's a lot easier to pay it when you're working than when you're retired.
Yeah.
Walter, don't sell yourself so short. I'd like to do it too, and I can't figure out how to do it. You keep saying.
I would like to do it. I agree completely with you. I don't want to purchase a cruiser for 75,000. To me, that is crazy. I agree with you. Unfortunately, the car dealerships or everything, the price of everything.
Yeah, but that's ridiculous too. Even your truck prices on those are
Yeah.
so overinflated, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous.
As long as everybody keeps buying them.
Yeah. And
Demand.
Dodge stopped making vehicles last year, police vehicles last year. They put a hold on it. And that was to catch up on personal vehicles. I half feel it was done on purpose because then it made the supply and demand go through the roof of police vehicles. So now selling them at a lower price to towns, they don't have to anymore. They've jacked the price through the roof. Ford did the same thing. They did a month's shutdown for police vehicles, and only were doing personal vehicles. Dodge has now completely removed themselves from the police industry. They're no longer making a police vehicle. So Ford, this year, Ford has kept their prices the same as last year. The dealership told us next year, be fully prepared to spend $10,000 more for a vehicle next year, which is another reason why with the CIP committee, I said, we can get away with one this year, but if we're going to be buying two in the future, you're going to be spending $10,000 more in the future. Chevy tried getting back into the industry, so they lowered their prices of a Tahoe. We could have actually got a Tahoe this year for, I think it was like $1,500 or $2,000 cheaper. I didn't want to do that because now you're talking buying all new tires that we have, winter tires or summer tires. You're talking an image of everybody thinks a Tahoe is worth a whole lot more money than a Ford Explorer. And I really felt that Chevy was gonna, after they get a couple departments in, they're gonna jack their prices through the roof, which is what Dodge did. And Chevy's already said that not this year, but next year, their prices of a Tahoe is gonna go up $10,000 to $15,000.
The wage increases.
Yeah.
Well, that's just the thing, the wage increases this year will, supersede everything, and we agree with that. I mean, that's needed to do. So next year, there'll be more, hopefully, money in the budget should something happen, even if it does go up, 10,000, it's a little bit different than this year. So the only reason why, I wanted to see, I wasn't here for the meeting with you guys, so I just kind of wanted to see if there was anything on the other end of the budget that could have been lowered. I looked at a couple of things here. I mean, I know everything seems like it's needed, but let's just say, and I know you're gonna need, there's I'm looking at about $1,250 right now I could think of that we could drop. Do you need new letterheads, envelopes, and other supplies right away? I understand that that's needed, but it went up $250. Okay. Another thing here is the office supplies went up $1,000. Increase for moving into new building, restocking the items. Well, you brought them here to use them, whatever, you would be restocking them anyway with that original amount, right? What have you used differently than you wouldn't have used in your other building?
We've essentially everything we brought here, we've used everything of. We're in a break room that is open to the whole entire town. So it's not split up, police department, town office stuff. It's just sitting in a cabinet, and I'm fine with that. But we try to buy in bulk to get cheaper prices. So if we're gonna buy paper plates, we try to buy a box of paper plates. And when we go back into that building, we'll be walking back into that building with nothing. So that's kind of that type of stuff. The letterhead, I'm told that our address won't be 230 Lake Street anymore, so we'll have everything, business cards, everything that says 230 Lake Street on it instead of our actual address, whether it be 230A or 230B.
Thanks for coming.
So that was the reason. That was the reason for that. Yes, letterhead. We still do have that, but if our address is changing, we're essentially handing everything out with the wrong address on it now. The office supplies. We're going into a new building, so the purchasing like the paper plates and everything, but we're also not buying in bulk while we're here right now because we don't have the room for it. So we've used everything that we've already have, and then if we need new thing of paper, we're ordering like 1 or 2 things of paper. Where at our old building, we would have a case of paper.
And that was strictly for you,
For
the police
us,
department.
yeah.
So who would be using your stuff here? Who's using?
The plates and stuff we're all using.
Yeah.
Okay, but it still comes out of their budget.
No, we're
Right.
rotating it now.
Are you? Okay.
So they buy it once, we buy it once.
Oh,
We're
okay.
rotating the cost back and forth right now, but when they leave here,
Right.
they won't have that
They won't
supply
have
to go
that
with them,
Mhm.
right?
Gotcha.
So,
Okay. And so looking through the budget, because I don't see too many other things. I do see, when you're talking about the body cams and cameras and all that stuff, it is down from what you were negotiated price of $40,000. I see all that, so I don't see a lot I was really playing to his concern because I wasn't here, like I said, so you didn't see anything else you could cut him.
Body cameras and tasers are actually up, by the way. So what happened there is that the taser line has been essentially zeroed out. But if you add body cameras and tasers together and look at what's being recommended this year, $13,500, it's actually more. Our new contract is more for
Well, it
this
is, yeah, I
too.
saw that.
Sort.
it's down.
But they are bundled. They are
Sort.
bundled, which is a
Yeah.
savings due to
Right,
bundling.
yeah.
So with those, that is we entered into a new contract with Taser. Our contract actually was up, I think it was June of 2024, so we could have still stayed in the contract. We called them to get a quote when the budget was coming up, and I don't have the number off the top of my head now, but it was like $40,000 more that it was going to increase, and we told them that's not going to work. That's way too much money. So they said, well, if you get in to a new contract right now, we can give you 2023 pricing for the next 3 years, which will save you.
But you'd have to do that, yeah.
Yeah, significantly. So we went to the selectmen. I went to the selectmen and said, what would you like us to do? We wait till 2024. We're either paying crazy amount of money or we're getting rid of the contract. So we decided to renew the contract in 2023. There is wording in it that if the town chooses not to fund that, then we send everything back to them, and we're all done with it. That being said, we do that, and we try to get back in the year after. I can promise. Just like cars, Axon has us. I mean, they built a great system, so I'll promise you they won't give us any sort of a deal later on.
Yeah, I tend to think long-term, so that was a good deal.
Yeah.
To do the new contract is smart. That's what you need to do. I mean, I looked over everything and I couldn't see other than small amount of little things here and there if you could have done something, but if you're saying you can't, you can't.
The new equipment, the other piece behind that, or the office supplies behind that increase, when we left that building, all of our stuff was older in there. All of our desks were older. It was that particle board wood desk.
Yeah.
And we had put screws into every single one of them prior to move-in. I think we ended up with one of those desks that we were able to kind of keep. And then there was one old metal desk that was a town office that we kept. Otherwise, there was no getting them from the top story down without falling into pieces. So there was at the time no money budgeted for new equipment. So there's no doubt in my mind we were gonna have to purchase at least 2 desks, whether it be used from some company, but it's not just necessarily for resupplying paper and everything. That's just one thing that we're definitely gonna have to do to get our supply back up. Because yes, for the last year we haven't purchased boxes of paper. We just bought a couple of packets.
As needed.
Yeah, because we've got nothing here. We got no room.
and there's no used equipment anywhere within the town that you can use, even on a temporary year or two basis.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think we've utilized every single thing. I can certainly reach out to other departments and see if they have anything anywhere, but I don't.
The desk that I'm currently using here in this building is about the size of this table, and it goes to about here.
that was-
Is the desk
That was
that
recycled.
that from our old
building.
building.
We took it for our IT room when we moved here, and it's tiny. But I was trying, there's nothing in storage out here, and I just don't know if anybody has anything on storage, but we can ask.
And our
Well,
patrol
what
room
about,
is the
what
break.
about, can someone donate to you? I mean, can we donate something? Is that allowed?
Yeah, we would take donations as long as they were in good condition.
Well, yeah.
The community center brought up they've got 2 metal desks there. I
Yeah.
took a look at them and
$50s.
yeah, oh yeah, I took a look at them like, oh, I mean it's.
They're sold
it's-
if you want.
Oh yeah, let's do yeah.
I like the whole government still has metal.
Yeah.
That's a solid.
I
Okay.
wish I had the wisdom to make a recommendation. The only thing I can say is, it hurts. It really hurts.
One of our biggest things in my budget, which is why I was okay with the warrant article, is the yes, we have to raise the taxes, and I definitely understand that, but it's the grant items. That was, I think it was $40,000 that is being reimbursed back to the town. However, we have to raise that tax this year. We have to raise that money in taxation for it, unfortunately, because we haven't done it in years past. But of that, it's like $30,000 is coming back to the town at the end of the year. We just have to raise the money
Right.
first. So
No,
it doesn't help. It doesn't help tax.
I hear what you're saying. I would say it a little different. Be careful, because if we're buying the radar equipment and we've got a grant, you don't actually have to raise the money in taxes, but we have to gross appropriate the money in the budget so you can spend it.
Yeah.
The select board will take all that into account when they set the tax
Yeah.
rate.
Yes.
Gross budget and gross offset, but I just realized there's nothing in your revenues. I have to fix that. I'm like, so I will fix that. It's not counted in the document that you'll see tonight, so.
Okay.
All I have to say is when we went through the budget, I thought this was one of the best crafted sections of them all in the entire budget. Is the feeling I have.
I will say the same thing. I was surprised that we ended up on the same number that the select board recommended. I was going in, was sure we were gonna find some things to cut, and you shared all the things that had already been cut, and we weren't comfortable really cutting your arm off.
I really feel the raises is a huge thing for the employees. So I don't disagree that it's a huge hit to the town. And like that $1,000 in new or office supplies, that's something that yes, this year I think needs to be had shy of inflation going through the roof, crazy. That's something that next year I think can go back. Do I think that goes towards training next year? Probably. I would be an argument that I would make, but it's not something that I feel needs to be left in there forever, shy of inflation. Paper going crazy.
Now, you said at the beginning that there's an employee, someone is going to be leaving because they're gonna be making more. How many does that leave you short? I mean, how is?
We'll be down 2 people at that point.
And then there would be a need to hire someone.
Yeah. But we've got somebody kind of in line that has expressed interest, but only at this point expressed interest. So I don't hold my breath on that.
Well, I mean, you better satisfied. I mean, I don't know.
All I can say is what I said. I wish I knew I wish I knew a way to take an axe to it someplace, but I was hoping you'd find some little concession someplace that would help out.
Yeah, when I did this, I really did go through every single line, looking for every single spot again, because I truly believe the rate. I really felt that as a town we needed to have as many cuts as we possibly could for our raises. So I 100% went through that and did it from day one of our budget. I would have no problem if the cruisers were at the point. I would have no problem saying, yeah, this isn't the year. I'd go against that only because we know next year it's going to be $10,000. Maybe next year is the year to try to. But the cruisers are not at that point right now. They're replaced every 6 or 7 years. At 7 years, that car we get $1,500 trade in for it. And it's because they usually get limped. One year they gave us a new car in Plymouth. The last year we went with them, they gave us $7,000 for it, and I couldn't drive that to them fast enough. And clearly that was a wrong decision because the next year the trade-in price was $700 for us. So they're not. It's not like your normal car. They're not when they're done with. They're done with. They're usually scrapped out. Maybe used to be used for taxis, but taxis are kind of gone. I did tell Christina she could have that car for as long as it drives because they got nothing.
For $700.
Yeah.
You're giving her possession as is, there's no warranty implied for
Yeah.
Alright. I don't wanna cut anyone off, but I think we're kinda winding down. Are we okay to close this?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to close consideration of the police department budget, section 4210, without making any amendment or changes. Do I need a second for that? I just know I call the vote, right?
Do we need to re-vote if the dollar amount is changed?
It's not
We didn't
changed.
change.
Not changed, no.
Yeah. I just need to close,
I just make a motion to close, okay.
and I'll second that motion to close.
All right, so we made a motion to open, we didn't make any changes, we've made a motion to close, we don't need to vote on it. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
That helps us with the warrant too, that we'll describe later. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you guys soon.
Okay, so next on our agenda is fire. So let me do this. We make a motion to open reconsideration of the budget section for the fire department, which is section 4220, in the current amount of $1,355,453.04.
I'll second.
Seconded by Sue. So, I think we're gonna do what we just did right now for fire.
Yeah.
Do you wanna start, Sue, or do you wanna start,
Well,
Walter?
I want to go.
Okay.
I think it's.
I don't mind starting.
Yeah.
Like I said with the chief of the police, there's a lot of people in this town my age. Are a majority of the population. And I don't know about anybody else, but my budget's certain. I'm getting by, and that's all. I think we've been generous with, first of all, we've got a good fire department. And every time I've needed help, they've been there. And every time the few people that I know and talk to have needed help, they've been there, and I've seen what you've done for Dottie and John Kozolka. I really appreciate that. I wish I could come up with a way, point at something and say, we can save ourselves $100,000 by doing this. you're an expert, is there a way we can save $100,000?
No. No, and just to use big numbers, there's roughly, and depending on the subjectivity of the term discretionary, there's $160,000 to $180,000 of discretionary funds within the fire department budget. Non-personnel, non-contract, there's a few areas that are kind of contract, but could you do something else? So that's your operating money, right? Obviously, it takes people to operate, but that's your operating fund. And so to cut over half of the department's operating fund on a budget that historically, it's been said by chiefs before me, and I've said it before, like, we run the fire department as minimalistically as humanly possible. We really do. You know, I know that there's going to be shortfalls within the budget. I know that we already exceeded the amount of ambulance billing, you know, last year that I'm asking for this year. So presumably that number goes up, and that's a detriment, and I've got to cut from somewhere else, right? So I've looked through the budget. Next year, there's going to be a good chunk of change between the radio payment being done, Zoll payment being done. It just isn't this year. That $7,000 still has to be there this year. So I know it doesn't do anything for this year, but next year there's $7,000 that can probably either be reassigned or completely go away, or whatever the answer is. When I heard yesterday that we were going to be coming back in here, I went through everything. I went through everything as best as possible. The overtime is a fairly large increase. I went through that. The issue with overtime is I'm really budgeting under an overtime. And that sounds crazy because it's $95,000, but people take vacation times. We run a minimal staff of 2 people 24/7. When that person's out, I've got to fill it, otherwise I can't staff an ambulance, right? So when you add all that together, and quite honestly, post-COVID, and I'm trying to say this not in a manner that's like disparaging to my employees, people use more sick time. My people are not overusing sick time at all. But when you think about it, if the COVID thing, right, like that kind of said, man, you don't come to work with the sniffles anymore. Maybe, like, regardless of where you work, let alone an EMS agency. We get 60 hours of sick leave a year. Well, 60 hours is 2 shifts and like 10 or 12 hours that you can use on some doctor's appointments, right? So it's not a lot. When somebody books out, it's not 8 hours off of that 12, or after that 60 hours, it's 24 hours. They're missing the entire shift. It's very rare that you have the sniffles in the morning and you're good to come in at 7:30. So maybe pre-COVID, we didn't have to budget for that as much. People would, they'd wear masks and stuff, even pre-COVID, the masks were a thing. But there's just more sick time usage. So now all those numbers go up, and that's just a little, that to me, I was really hopeful that was a place, but between the days that people get off, and most don't, I still factor nobody uses all of their time. They bank a little bit here and there that they can, but routinely the shift personnel are using their sick time to its capacity, because if you're sick twice throughout the year, you basically burned all your sick time. And so, that number really comes out to probably somewhere between 105 and 115. We'll manage other stuff, make sure that, we're managing call members coming in on overtime, backfill calls or whatever, like we do historically, but that's not, that's obviously a big number. You can't save anything out of it. And then, like I brought up the other, when we talked last, there's just a couple of lines that go up. Dispatch fee went up. We don't have a huge amount of control over it. I make my votes. I think I brought it up the last time, the 2 most costly measures I voted against, and I didn't win because there's 30 other people voting, and they overruled the 6 of us that voted against it. So yeah, I really wish, because I'm in the same boat as Chris, Chief Bean, right? Like, I know for the first time really in years, the fire department has seen a fair amount of turnover in the last like 18 months. And we've got a great staff, but it also means we've got a great young staff. And that great young staff are the ones that can be drawn into the, hey, you can make $25 an hour over here, and we're paying $18 or $19 an hour. So right, the wage issue has to be corrected. And that's why, as much as I could, the only lines that go up really are that EMS billing, medical supplies. We go on more medical calls. We're going to spend a little bit more, and the dispatch cost. I'm open to suggestions if anybody's going to.
I couldn't agree with this theme more. It's in police, it's in fire, it's in my career teaching. Just the starting salaries are not competitive with other fields, and it's going to lead to huge problems over the next couple of decades. There's no doubt about it, where the staff around you is just going to get older and older because no one's going to come in from the bottom. Because why would you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've given it a second look and you've given it your all. Just, thought the public, I think that they'll understand more that you've said it more, and, we've done all we could and there's nothing we can cut. So that's all we can do. And we all agree up here, like you said, we all agree about the wage increases. They have to happen.
Right, and I know you do. I just, I want to make that
Yeah.
I don't, dealing with that much turnover as we did in 18 months was not fun. And obviously the PD's dealt with it a lot longer than we have, but,
Now, are you still short in your people?
no,
You're
we're
up
at
to
full
date.
staff, but
Nice. Okay.
I'm not saying, and I'll include the caveat, this stuff doesn't go through, and I can guarantee we're gonna lose people, and that's not a knock on them. It's just, there's some really fantastic opportunities out there that this will bring us in line with and make sure that they're not, they'll still be, this is middle of the road. That was the goal. Let's get right to about average, within 1% plus or minus, and that's where all the numbers landed, and that'll keep people here. But when you're talking, $6 an hour difference to go to that top step, then it's hard to pass.
Okay.
All right, I think we've kind of petered out on this one too, so unless anyone else has anything else, I'll make a motion to close reconsideration on the fire department budget, section 4220, without making any changes. We're gonna stick with the number we have.
Second.
Seconded by Les, and I think we said we don't have to vote on that, so. I do wanna thank you for coming by. I think this actually was was helpful for us. We would have tried to do it ourselves, and
Well, I appreciate
by you
that you
coming
did.
by, it gave us a lot more
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank
Thank you
you
for
all.
being here.
All right, so going back to the agenda, I gotta be careful here because there's two more on our list of intending to do, and these were actually put on by me. I think I'm not supposed to talk about them unless I make a motion, so.
You have to open, yeah.
So I will
Make your motion so we can talk about it.
So 4415, this is gonna be quick, I think. I'll make a motion to open reconsideration of the health agencies and hospitals budget section, which is number 4415, in the current amount of $20,200. Seconded by Walter?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I will tell you, this is Lakes Region VNA and Henry Baker Hospice and Home Health. The other one is outside agencies, which is Lakes Region. I probably shouldn't talk about them until I make a motion, but I was thinking that if we're desperate to make cuts, the bottom line number is too high, we need to cut places. I personally am more comfortable cutting outside non-departmental agencies. I'm not comfortable taking money away from town departments and then telling them you still have to do all this work without the resources they need. And I thought that there would be some chance that the committee would be interested in making drastic cuts in this. I no longer feel that way. You can surprise me, but if someone thinks this is a great idea, speak up, but otherwise I'm prepared to close this out, because
I wasn't here this day. I'll make the motions I would have made if I was here those days. If that's what you wanted me to
Yeah,
do.
you wanna make a motion to make some changes, go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't here in this section. These are the amounts that I would have suggested if I was here.
So just, go ahead. I think
We have those?
I think what we ended up with was we made a cut from the, we made a small cut from the select board numbers, which was a large cut from the requests, and we basically level funded the two agencies here, the Lakes Region
Yeah, Lakes Region, we kept it what it
DNA.
was, yeah.
Right,
and the Penny Baker Hospital.
I'll make a motion to amend line 360, Pemmy Baker, to an amount of 2,500.
I'll second that.
That's what I was gonna do.
Okay,
I don't really have anything to say about it. I think 2,500 is fair.
so, go ahead, Walter.
I'm 81 years old. I've used these services on more than one occasion. The older we get, the more frequently we need them. I've been vocal in my lack of support for Lakes Region. I received a letter from Lakes Region in response to my letter a year and 3 months ago. I'm satisfied with the letter that I finally received, and I responded that I would work with them, that I'm happy with the improvements that have been made with the treatment of the couple that I spoke for. I didn't mention that couple's name. Everyone knows who I mean, but I never said it.
No, I think it's best not to say any names, so that's great.
I need in this, and the majority of the people in this town are of an age that we need these services. And I'm opposed to any cut in any way. I would make a motion that we increase them a small amount. And this is one place where the people my age get something out of their taxes.
Okay, thank you,
And I
Walter.
make a motion that we increase it,
So,
not cut it.
I hear what you're saying. I don't think that that would be a friendly amendment to Charlie's, so what we need to do is vote on the proposed cut, and then you can make a motion to increase.
Okay.
So, I don't know if anyone else wants to say, so I think the difference for me, Walter, is I don't believe that these are services that the town residents don't need. I think that they are good services. But I look at it differently. I think, if not all of them, certainly the great majority of them, they come to the town and they ask for support. The services they provide are not contingent on that support. If we support them or not, they still have a mission to do what they do. I don't think that either of these agencies are gonna say, well, we're upset that Bristol zeroed us. I mean, I would have made a motion to zero us out. I knew no one was gonna support that, so I kept my mouth shut, although I just said it. I don't think they're gonna say, gee, I don't think Pemmy Baker is gonna say, gee, we asked for this and then you didn't even level fund us, we gave us less, we're not gonna take any more patients in Bristol. I don't think they're gonna walk away from their business. There's not in my mind, there's not a linkage between we're paying for a service. We're giving them money as general support,
Donation.
as a donation. And whether we give them that donation or not, they still have a mission and a business to run, and they're still gonna provide those services. That's why, I mean, it's a little bit mean, but if you're saying the bottom line is too high and we gotta cut somewhere, this is a place that I would be willing to cut. I don't know if I don't have a lot of confidence this is gonna pass, and I'm gonna stop talking and let you talk, but I'd like to hear some other people. I'm gonna stop.
Well, I question I understand what you're saying about if we don't contribute, they still have to, but they have an overall operating budget, and if we knock it down by whatever percentage our donation is, then they can provide less services across their service area, so it would have an impact on Bristol. It wouldn't be, oh, well, we're not taking Bristol patients, but like everyone else, there may be one nurse less per month or so, or whatever, but it would knock their operating budget down, and it has to impact us somehow.
Okay, thank you. Walter, go ahead.
We
I'm sorry,
had-
Les. I'll get you next second.
Go ahead, Walter.
We had Nana, and we lost Nana because we didn't support it well enough. When Lakes Region first came to us, they were looking for 36,000, and it damn near got cut to $1. And that would have happened, except last year, as mad as I was at them, I fought like the devil to get it back somewhat. It almost went to $1, and I fought like the devil to get it back to 16. We need that service. We lost Nana because we didn't support it well enough. Let's not lose Lakes Region unless we're gonna get somebody else in here that's better.
I hear you, and I think your comments are valid, but just to point out, this is Penny Baker we're talking about. Les, please.
The only thing I would add is they would still have to provide a level of service, but they wouldn't have to provide the full level of service that they're providing now. And the reason I say that is we got a call at the community center this week from somebody that was told that they don't do clip nails anymore, and that they should call the community center to see if they would do it. And so that's kind of the standard thing with, as we get older, you can't do those things, and you need that service. And it sounds like maybe some services are already being limited. Now, this was a call saying that this is what had happened when they called for a service, but I can't verify that, nor did I check on it. We just said, it's really not up our alley to do
Well,
nails.
this was talked about before when they came here, that they were trying to bring some of the services back, but they haven't been able to do
Right.
that yet, with cutting the toenails and things like that.
Mhm.
That is an extra service, that is what you would consider. They don't consider that standard having to do
Right.
that. You can go to a podiatrist if you want, maybe a primary care, whatever it is, could do your toenails.
Right.
But it's a nice service for them to do that, and it's very convenient for the patients. So I do understand what you're saying, that is the extra money. They're getting paid no matter what to come in and treat the patient. They have the money from whether the Medicare or insurances or whatever they have, but the extra stuff. But I think what happened with Lakes Region, I think, is we were paying Nana $30-something thousand, and then we just continued on with Lakes Region, and they were not giving the care that they should have been giving and all that stuff. So that's why we originally cut that. I know you wanted to keep it, but it was really, and that was a tough one too. So I think PEMI's a little bit different. I think PEMI has taken on a few more patients, and they are trying to build up, I guess, to us. So to me, I don't agree with cutting it. I think that it would be good.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I guess unless someone really wants to talk, I want to call a vote because there's 6 of us here. We would need 4 votes in favor. I don't really see that happening. Let's just vote and get this over with. Everyone okay with that? Okay, so I'm going to call a motion. There's an amendment. There's a proposal to amend line 360 of the Health Agencies and Hospitals section, which is 4415, from the current amount of $3,500 to $2,500. So if you vote yes, you're cutting to reduce the number from 3,500 to 2,500. If you vote no, you're voting to keep the number 3,500. All clear? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? The vote is 3-3, that fails. The number stays at 3,500.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, I thought you would, go ahead.
To increase both Lakes Region and.
You have to do one at a
You
time.
gotta do one at a time. Because we have to do lines at a
Let's
time.
start with Lakes Region.
Okay.
I make a motion, I'd like to bring this over to Sean if I can. I'd like to make a motion to increase.
Yeah, make your motion first and then bring it over, or Sean will come up and get it for you.
Okay,
He has no authority.
Full service.
I make a motion to increase it from 35 to 45.
So that's Pemmy Baker, right?
No, Lakes
Lakes
Region.
Region, start with Lakes Region.
Well, Lakes Region right now is 16,700.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's why I said your numbers, that's okay.
To 17,500 then.
Okay, so we have a does somebody want to second that?
Sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion from Walter, seconded by Les, to amend line 350 of the Health Agencies and Hospitals section, which is 4415, from the current amount of $16,700 to a new amount of $17,500. So,
And
Would you
I
say, Walter?
hope that this will give them the incentive to do more.
gotcha.
They have done better. I'm getting reports from 2 different people that use their services regularly, that they have improved since I started squawking. They have, and they finally did respond to me, and that makes me feel a lot better about sending it over there. If we can correct them, if we can use this to correct them, I think it's good. I think it's good for the majority of the people that live in Bristol, because we're the ones, the majority of the ones who use these services.
Okay,
I've been using Granite because I'm afraid of what Lakes Region would do to me, but I think that's finally smoothed over.
okay. Does anyone else on the committee like to address the proposed amendment? Are we ready to vote? Okay, so I will call a vote on the amendment. The amendment is a proposal to modify section, line 350 of section 4415 for support to the Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association to raise the contribution, the budget number from 16,700 to 17,500. So yes, you're voting for an increased donation, and no, you're voting to keep the number where it is now. All in favor? Opposed? 1 to 5, the motion fails. I forgot to write these down, Christina, are you keeping track for me?
Yep.
Thank you. Any other?
I'd like to try the same for Baker Valley,
Yep,
visiting nurse.
yep. So they're currently, so you want to propose an amendment to line 360, which is Pemmy Baker in section 4415. The current number is 3,500. What's the new number you want to propose?
45.
Okay. So does anyone want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend from Walter, seconded by Buzz, for line 360 of section 4415, which is the Pemmy Baker Hospice and Healthcare within the health agencies and hospitals, to increase the budget number from 3,500 to 4,500. Wally, do you want to talk in favor of it?
Nothing improves the quality of service like competition. The more competition there is, the better way to be served. Remember, the people that come to town meeting are seniors by and large. And they're the ones that are paying this, and they're the ones that need these services. And I know my insurance pays a considerable amount to this. I'm not seeking charity from the town, nor are any of the people that I've referenced in any of my doings here asking for any charity from the town. We pay for that through our insurance. But we need these services more and more. Everybody else is getting everything they need. How about the people that are paying for it?
Okay, anyone else want to speak?
You know, I do agree with you in one aspect, I just think that this is not the year to do it. So I think maybe next year, we could think of increasing them. That's just my view, you know. Give them another year.
Another year might be the year you need their help,
Yeah.
or someone you know and love. There's a lot of my family and friends here, and thank God we got insurance, we're gonna get it. But I see a guy daily with his leg amputated right here, and he needs help. And this town's gotta have some heart for those people.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, I'm gonna say the same thing Sue does. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think that when we also say the bottom line is too high, adding things back into the budget is just not.
But these are the things that the people who pay for this budget need. Shouldn't they get a little more consideration than the people that are doing much better? All I'm doing is supporting what I think is right.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
not. arguing with
I
you.
support it privately, I support it publicly, and I'm supporting it here. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. I don't think anyone else has something to say, so I'm gonna call a vote unless someone speaks up. So we're gonna vote on the motion to amend line 360 of section 4415, which is support for Penny Baker Hospice and Healthcare within the health agencies. And the proposal is to increase the budget number from 3,500 to a new number of 4,500. So if you're voting yes, you're voting to increase support, and if you're voting no, you're voting to keep the support where it currently is. All in favor? All opposed? Again, 1 to 5, the motion fails.
I'll make a motion to amend line 350, Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association, to amount of $12,000.
Does somebody want to second that? Charlie, I would love to do it, I just don't see it passing. Is it worth spending time on it?
I'm gonna state the motion I would have made. That's all I'm doing. You don't have to second if you don't want to.
I'll second it, just to get, just to listen to what you're gonna say.
Okay, so we now have a motion on the table to modify line 360 of section 4415 line 350 for
Yeah.
section 4415, which is support for the Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association within the health agencies and hospital section, to change the number from the current value of 16,700 to a new value of, what did you say, 12? Or
$12,000.
$12,000. Charlie, do you want to talk?
I would say even at $12,000, this is our highest funded outside agency, and I feel like it's a fair amount to give. That's all I have to say.
Does somebody else want to talk? I want to talk, but I don't know what I want to say yet.
I
so
don't know
I'll
what
wait.
else to say.
I think you've
I
said
think you said it. Yeah. What are you gonna say?
if you want to say it again, we can do that, but we know what you've said it already. I'm torn on this because I said before, I like the idea of finding places to cut, but I know talking to people, I know someone who's on the board of this, and she wouldn't look at this. She still goes back to the number, what was it, 33,000 2 years ago. She keeps comparing it to that. Why isn't the town going back to that? I will say that I don't know what the title is, but the president, the chief director, whatever his title is, the guy who came in 2 years ago
Greg,
was very unimpressive. And the new guy who came in this year was impressive. So it does seem that they have admitted that they had a problem and taken steps to correct it. And so they certainly pointed themselves back in the right direction and made steps to improve. I'm blessed in that I have reasonably good health and I've never used them, so I don't have any personal experience. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but as much as I wanna make a cut, I don't think I'm gonna vote to support this. I think level funding them is probably the best way to go. Anyone else wanna?
Well, I agree, because we were still giving them that they're, we're agreeing that they're giving us good extra care. So we're supporting them, and maybe next year, we can go up a little higher. But at this point, give them another year to show, that they're getting money in good faith, and that's how we did it last year, and I think that we should continue at the same level.
Anyone else? We ready for a vote? Okay, so I'm gonna call the vote on the motion to amend. What happened? My screen changed. 44, here we go. So we have a motion to amend line 350 of section 4415, right? For Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association, and it is to change the current budget number of $16,700 to a new budget number of $12,000. So if you're voting yes, you're voting to make a cut to a new value of $12,000. If you're voting no, you're voting to keep it at the value it is right now. All in favor? I wasn't sure where you were going. You're getting ready for me. I got you. All opposed? 1 to 5. That is defeated. Am I okay to? Does anyone else want to say, or am I okay to close this section?
I've said all I could say. I've tried the best I could.
Yep.
Gave it this.
I just have a question. We keep saying that maybe next year, but the salaries aren't going down next year.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, the future's kind of bleak. I don't,
I hear you.
I think we're gonna be in the same boat we are now.
Right, the percentage increase won't be as high, but the number is still gonna be
Right,
pretty
the
high.
absolute number is still there.
Right.
All right, I think we're done. So I'm gonna make a motion to close reconsideration of section 4415, which is health agencies and hospitals, having taken no action to change any numbers in the budget.
I'll second this.
Seconded by Charlie, and unless someone objects, we don't need to vote on that, we are done. So, I know this is not, maybe, I'm gonna try to squeak this in anyway. I did the same thing, I put the outside agencies on here, hoping we could cut them.
Do you plan on making an amendment then?
Do you want me, no, do you want me to open it for reconsideration, or do you wanna just?
I don't think if anyone's gonna make an
Does anyone wanna make an amendment to outside agencies? Should I open it, or can we just go on to the next thing, because
I think we beat it to
I think we
death.
beat it to death. I don't think anyone's looking to cut or increase to any of the other things in there, so. All right, thank you. So,
Any other sections?
let me just, so the way that I wrote the agenda, I wanted to put the sections we knew we were gonna talk about, so that if a member of the public was interested, they would know to come to the meeting. But I didn't want to preclude us from handling other sections, so you can see kind of how I tried to get my cake and eat it too, both things in the agenda. I do have another section that I would like to bring up. So let me find it in the budget. It was the highway, no, it is the highway projects, I think. Hold on a second. Patriotic, Kelly Beaches, health agency, waste. Okay, it is section 4319, which is 4319, which is in the highway department, but it's actually their street lights and bridges section. So I'm gonna make a motion to open reconsideration of section 4319, which is the street lighting and bridges part of the highway department in the current amount of $35,500.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Charlie. So the insight here is that, I guess I can even make my,
I would say just make your motion.
making my motion. So I'm gonna make a motion to amend line 430, which is bridges, for street lighting and bridges, from the current amount of $500 to a new amount of $0.
I second that.
So here's the logic. When we talked about this with Mark, we heard that we have received federal grants that are quite, they're not grants, did I say the word wrong? We have received federal funding, is that the correct word? Thank you for correcting.
Only for bridges.
Thank you for correcting me, for bridges. So, we're happy to have the funding, but we've been told that it's kind of frustrating because it's enough funding that we want to use it, but it's not enough funding to do like a big project. And Mark said, well, the line here is for $500 if someone runs their car off the side of a bridge and damages the guardrail, we need some money to fix it. Seems to me that if we got funding that can only be used for bridges, and we need to spend a little bit of money on a bridge, and we've got money that we don't know how to spend, we're gonna spend this federal funding before we spend any budget numbers. So why do we need anything in the budget?
And this money was specific to a bridge project,
Right.
if I'm correct.
It has to be a capital project, it can't be just bridge
I don't
repair?
think you could just use it for something like that. I could be wrong.
I would argue another point about here. He stated that this line is often not used.
Correct.
It's an often unused line, and something at the amount of $500. You could ask that for the select board, and the select board can find $500 in a seldom used line.
I don't have a huge feeling about this, because $500, I mean, so I don't want to turn this into a 20-minute discussion, because $500 is not worth 20 minutes of our time. But I thought it was maybe, it doesn't move the needle a lot, but it's another small win. So that's why I brought it up.
Can we vote?
Yeah, does anyone else want to say anything? I don't know exactly, I did not touch base with Mark, so I don't know the answer to your question. I kind of think Charlie is right, that if someone really does damage a bridge guardrail and we can't use the federal funding, Mark and Christina and the select board will find a couple $100 in the budget.
Well, wait a
So
minute, you can,
Sorry, go
a
ahead.
bridge guardrail you can, because it's on the bridge, but a regular guardrail you can't.
This,
Isn't that?
so,
What-
this one-time one that we just got, it does say, this one-time bridge payment is not related to the quarterly payments. This payment can only be used on the maintenance, construction, or reconstruction of municipally owned bridges, so you could
use it.
use it, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So, does anyone else want to say something before I call a vote? Okay, good. So we're gonna call a vote on the motion, which is to amend line 430 of section 4319, which is the bridges line within the street lighting and bridges section, to change the budgeted number from the current $500 to a new number of 0. So if you're voting yes, you're voting to cut the bridges line, and if you're voting no, you're voting to keep the number where it is right now. Walter, did you have?
Can I get you to amend that to $1 so it allows some adjustment?
I don't think it's necessary, but I'm happy to accept that.
I don't think a dollar is a bad idea.
I'm happy to accept that as a friendly amendment, and
And
the person who seconded it is happy.
Okay.
So I will restate the motion. The motion is to amend line 430 of section 4319, which is bridges within the street lighting and bridges section, from the current value of $100 to the new value.
Oh, $500.
$500.
Current value $500.
$500.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'm talking too fast, I'm gonna slow down. From the current value of $500 to the new value of $1. So if you vote yes, you're voting to cut the number from 500 to 1. If you vote no, you're voting to keep the number at 500. Okay? All in favor? I got 6 yeses, so I don't need to do no's or abstentions. It passes 6-0. Thank you. I do not have any other sections that I want to reconsider. Does anyone else?
Oh, we have to re-vote on that line.
Oh, I have to close. So now I will make a motion. Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to close reconsideration of the budget section 4319, which is streetlights and bridges, and with a new bottom line number of $35,001.
Second.
Seconded by Les. So if I think we do have to vote on this because
Yes.
we changed the number. All in favor? 6 yeses. I don't need to do the no's and the abstention. It passes 6-0. Thank you, Charlie, for that
We should have
Procedural.
10 more.
I wish I had 100 more. Does anyone else have any other sections they would like to be reopened for consideration, or a motion to amend, or are we done for the time being?
And I would like to remind people that you still have an opportunity after our public hearing, because we do talk about all sections at the public hearing, to still make amendments after our public hearing on any part of the budget.
I was gonna talk
Within,
Can I just
Roll.
clarify, you would then have to hold another public hearing the next night, wouldn't you?
I believe so.
I believe you do, yes.
So we advertise it as a snow, you normally advertise it as a snow date, but maybe I wanna change that wording to not just a snow date, just in case, so.
Yeah,
for
okay.
the-
So we're gonna, and we are actually gonna talk about that, because we need to finalize, I mean, we have scheduled it, but we have the option to move that, so we'll talk about that later in the meeting, the scheduled date of the public meeting. I'm not hearing anyone saying that they have another section they would like to reopen. So if that is the case, then we'll move on to the next item in the agenda. So now we have work session on the warrant articles and the revenues. We'll do the warrant articles first.
are you here for warrant articles?
I'm just here.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if you wanted to speak to us, I was gonna give you an opportunity.
I may not stay for all.
Here to support.
I haven't had dinner yet.
Yeah.
I haven't been home for dinner yet.
So the again, to remind everyone, this is a draft. This is still subject to change. The select board is having another meeting Thursday night. Things could change, but this is what we have now, and it's a chance to ask questions, because just to remind everyone, especially Buzz, who's new on the committee, that for the separate warrant articles that have spending components to them, the budget committee is asked to vote on their recommendation should the voters approve or disapprove the warrant article. So we have this session now to talk about them and ask questions, and then give us time to think before we have to vote next week, or whenever the public meeting is. We don't get to vote on the first couple of articles because they're actually on the first session on the Tuesday ballot. But since,
And nor does the select board even have say over the first 8 articles, is that correct?
correct, but I will take the opportunity, since I know Buzz told me that he was concerned that he thinks that there's some pretty unimpressive, that's not the right word, but some wording here that he's concerned with. Do you want to share that, or do you want to just go on
Well,
to something else?
it's just, I can't help myself, but,
But that's what we love about you.
Article 6 and Article 7, I'm not objecting to the substance, but they say that they want to align the wetlands ordinance to better align with industry standards. And as an attorney and as a person, what I see is that your industry implies the development industry. It should be something along the lines of generally accepted regulatory standards, because wetlands is an area that's regulated by the state and the federal government, not by the development industry. So to me, these things are misleading from a personal standpoint, and they're incorrect from a legal standpoint.
Yeah.
But I understand we have no say in it, and I can't help myself.
that through DRA.
We ran it through the town's attorney.
Yeah.
We don't run those through the DRA, but the
Because
town's
they're not.
attorney.
Right.
So that wording isn't actually, I was just trying to find the actual amendments themselves. That wording is only what's written on the warrant article. I do not believe that wording is included in the actual amendment, because the amendment is bigger. It's, and I don't know if it's.
So they tried to use a term that would capture, you think that,
Yeah, the
and it's
wording.
misleading.
I don't know,
wording,
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
The wording that's placed on the warrant articles is normally a much shortened version than what's actually done. And it's approved by the town's attorney, so.
We could look at doing like current What does this say right now, current industry standards?
Generally, the term of art,
It says,
It's generally accepted.
align better to the industry standards
For
Yeah.
for
wetlands.
plans, identification, and delineation.
To current regulatory standards?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Because
Just to
industry
make sure-
standards refer to the private sector. you're
Because
saying.
this reads that you're gonna gut the wetlands. I mean, that's,
Yeah, and the purpose is to actually bring it up to,
yeah, no, I assume that, but that's why
Because
I
it's
can't
very-
help myself. I
it's
just
very
wanted to pick
outdated.
up. I didn't mean that we should spend a lot of time talking.
no, but I appreciate the commentary because it's helpful.
And it is helpful, I can certainly share it back with the planning board. The unfortunate thing is I can't change this. They would have to, I can't change this document once it's created.
Well, if in fact the underlying amendment doesn't say this, then it's not
Yeah.
worth spending any more time on it.
No, but it would be nice to let them know
Don't do
to
it
use
again.
their wording.
I can, yeah, as an aside, I can say that the amount of these that don't pass is minuscule. Most people don't.
They don't read them, they just check yes.
The underlying proposal, except for building code, so it's never.
Oh, yeah, those are the last thing.
All right, so moving on to Article 11, that's what I call the budget warrant.
Oh, Article 9.
What did I say?
You said 11.
11, yeah, we're on 9.
Or 9.
What is wrong with me today?
You're just trying to keep Carol on our toes.
That's why it's a committee and not a person.
Thank you. I'm looking, it says Article 9 right there. So, this is the one that we control. This is the number that comes out of us. I can change a screen on my, I can change to a different screen and tell you what that number currently is. Both of the places where there are X's there. This is the one where actually, theoretically, we're supposed to vote first because this is our number, and then the select board votes. On everything else, the select board is supposed to vote first, and then we know what they say, and then we vote.
And also, if we don't reach a budget, there's a process we go through that's stipulated in the budget book. And that's why another good reason why we vote first,
Right.
because it triggers the next step in the process.
So, I mean, rather than ramble on, let me stop and just say, anyone else have a question or a comment that they wanna, Walter?
This is another one of the things that the people who pay for it use. I'm supporting it.
You're supporting it,
Yes, I support this spending.
okay? In the meeting last week, you and Janet both said you were
He's
intending.
on Article 11.
Never.
Go back to Article.
Are you on Article?
Did I say 11? We're on
No,
9.
I'm on 11.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh,
do
yeah,
9,
nine.
let's do 9.
Only
first.
I vote against 11.
I'm sorry, I said, Walter, I said the wrong number, we're on 9.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's why we were reacting. We were surprised because I confused everybody. So let's make it clear. We're on Article 9,
Which is
which
the
is the big budget number. This is the whole town's budget number. If you're interested.
And all I would say is that I think it's very important that everyone votes what they think they should vote. If you vote against it, vote against it. That's the way it should be. It should, if we are split as a board, it should be viewed to the town as we're split as a board. The true picture should be told. No matter how rosy or unrosy that true picture is.
Right. So we just cut $500 out. So the number is $9,144,788.19. This will all show up later and it'll be, but just to let you know, which is for a warrant article, I have it, I don't have, it's about a 9.4%
Increase.
increase. The comment I was gonna make was, I know I think we all were amazed at what happened in town meeting last year, where there was basically no discussion, there were no questions, there were no motions to amend, there was silence, and then there was a vote to close debate and a vote to approve the budget. It made life wonderful.
You know.
I would bet my house that's not gonna happen this year. And I'm not a betting man. So I'm struggling to try to get this number. I'm never gonna get this number comfortable for me, but I wanna make it as not as least uncomfortable as possible. I'm fearful that we're gonna get what we got, I don't know, 7 years ago when somebody made a motion to take, what, 250 and the people voted for it, and then the select board had to figure out how to make drastic.
Yeah.
It does happen,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping to avoid that, so that's what I'm struggling with, so.
And from being on the board essentially for a period of time right after that, for years we were spending to try to make up for that spending we didn't spend. We spent that money eventually.
Right, we delayed the spending.
We delayed
didn't
it.
avoid
What happened?
it.
You delayed the spending.
Yes, we didn't avoid it, we delayed
This
it.
budget pays for what needs to be done. When you cut spending, it delays the spending for the most part.
I agree with you, but I don't know that the average town meeting attendee understands or appreciates that the way you just explained it.
Well, I think it's up to us to articulate that in the moment needed.
Yeah.
I know I've come to town meeting ready to articulate those things if needed.
Okay.
But like you were saying, the last couple of years, we just haven't had to.
So we're not taking a vote tonight, but if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you have any additional information you want to know so that you can vote when we do eventually have a vote, now is the time to raise those questions or concerns. This is a pretty straightforward. I think it's been made clear that we're not going to have a 7-0 recommendation, but we will have a recommendation.
I wish I had a better way of arguing it.
Yep, you and me both. All right, so I think we're done with Article 9. I think I said the number right this time.
Yep.
And we'll move on to Article 10. I think Article 10 doesn't need, this is an
There's an
article.
error, and so what's in front of you, there's an error in it. It should be $20,000. I will be fixing that for the select board, but we did change it, and I missed that one. I didn't want to send you out extra copies again when I caught it, so I figured I'd just tell you
Okay.
tonight. So-
My comment was gonna be that this is in every year's warrant. It's pretty standard. It's to set up a contingency fund, and I don't
Oh,
think it's
sorry.
been, what, you now saying
I read
you're on
the
a different
wrong
one? So it's still 25.
It's still 25.
All right, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I thought. So anyway, I don't think that this is contentious.
I was happy with 20, but
This is pretty typical. If you have any questions, please speak up now. Otherwise,
It's the next one.
we'll move on to the next one.
If it got stopped, if Article 10 got voted down, what would that do?
It would not affect the coming tax rate because it is taking from the unexpended fund balance.
Right.
But the unexpended fund balance got taken away from me someplace.
Correct, that would be $25,000 that's less available to offset taxes the coming fall.
Whatever remains gets put back
Usually
in.
what happens with this fund is, we find out that, the windows are bad in the water sewer. We weren't planning on it, we need to replace that. We take it from this fund. It, more times than not, is an unanticipated maintenance problem. Well, whether that's a vehicle or a building, occasionally to cover a special circumstance.
did we spend it this year?
We did.
Yeah.
On what?
You had to do 1 year for the library, didn't you?
That's what we spent
That's
this
right,
year.
yeah.
So this year, a portion of it was spent on the library
Yeah.
remediation from mold in their basement. So we shared the costs with them. We also used a portion of it for a deposit on purchase and sales, which will be talked a little bit later on in another article on here. I can explain that one a little better.
Yep.
And then we had a penalty that we had not budgeted anywhere, and we used that for the penalty, because we didn't have a budget to pay the penalty anywhere.
So it comes in handy. I mean,
Yeah.
truth.
So Walter, the comment, you asked the question. So it's not, it would take away the contingency fund, which is a tool the town has to handle unexpected things that pop up. So in that respect, it would probably cause some discomfort and some problems. We'd either have to say we're gonna live with the problem, or we gotta find somewhere else to chop to free up money to handle it. I think it makes sense to give the town the contingency fund to do those types of things. I do not particularly like the way you explained it, because if you don't take, he's right that it's not part of spent, I mean, it's not, but if you don't take it out of the unexpended fund, then it's there available theoretically that the select board can use it to offset spending, and so you don't have to raise as much taxes. So whether you
But
spend.
also, it's $25,000 on a fund that we try to leave at least 300 or 400 or 500,000.
Right.
I mean, that's the very lowest. Very, very
I
lowest.
just, I think that it would be kind of penny wise and pound foolish to not approve this. I'm expecting to vote in favor of it, but both for recommendation and as a voting member of the town meeting. But if you're desperate to cut spending, you,
I can give a little more history on that.
Please, go ahead.
Too. Two things. It doesn't get spent every year, obviously, and then when it doesn't get spent, it remains in the unexpended fund balance. It doesn't come out and then go back in, it just is there. Historically, this was in the budget every year, and for years and years and years.
I've always voted for it.
Yep, it was a line item in the budget itself, and the only reason it changed was there was a law that was passed to change the RSA. It said it had to be voted on. You couldn't put it in your budget, and that was probably. I mean, I remember being in the budget when I was on the budget committee, so somewhere between 10 and 7 years ago, 7 years ago, that changed.
I've always voted on the warrant.
Yeah,
So-
it's an emergency fund, is what it is. It's not a slush fund, we can't use it.
Right.
You know, it has to be, we can't use more than that, and many, many years we've not used it all. We don't use it all every year just because.
so again, we're not voting tonight. Did that answer your question?
Yeah,
I just wanna let you know, we did put back, we only spent, 8,400 roughly.
In
So the rest of-
23.
Yeah, in 23, so the rest of that
Stayed in
Remained.
unexpended.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a point when the account gets so high that you don't have to do this in a given year?
No, it goes back to the general fund
No.
every year.
Because again,
There's not a special revolving fund. You vote on the warrant article, and if you need it, you use it, but otherwise it stays in the unexpended fund balance, not in the budget that you can spend on anything.
at the end of every year it lapses, so every year we have to
Okay, all right,
reauthorize.
yeah.
So in 2022, we only spent 3,700.
And historically, we've also, and
It's gonna kick me.
tried to do a little better job with that, is historically, we've also not asked permission from the budget committee, but informed them as we went along that we were using monies from the unexpended.
I have heard that from our
Yeah,
staff.
Portion of it I couldn't share because we were in
Right, yeah,
negotiations.
that we'll share with you later
Yes,
tonight.
but I couldn't share that, like the library, but,
Okay,
so.
so I'm gonna move on to Article 11. So Article 11 is, this is the one that changed from 25 to 20?
Yes, it is,
Okay,
sorry.
so our piece of paper says 25,000, the select board has decided to change it to 20. This is for, it says patriotic recreation and
Fireworks.
special events, but it's fireworks, right?
It correct, we have to put it into that fund.
Right, so it's a donation into a revolving fund that then gets spent on fireworks. There's been discussion at town hall, at town meeting, you know, do we want to spend money on fireworks? Some people are like, this is a lot of money, why are we doing it? Other people are like, we're a resort community and this is important for the people who are here all summer, and
And it's been
For
a
the-
number of years
for the
that
past few years it has been approved,
we
but
put it as a warrant article specifically to that purpose, so that the voters can decide instead of
Right.
us just assuming.
right.
But
And I think I have voted for it, but I strongly agree, this is not something to tuck into the budget and kind of hide away. You want to make sure so that then people can't come back and say, hey, I didn't like this. We say, no, you voted on it.
Is 20,000 what we did last year too?
No, last year we did less. Last year we were in the third year of the contract with the former vendor, and he reduced his rate. I think we only did 10,000 or
I
12,000.
wanna say 12.
12,000 last year, so we did, unfortunately, we cannot use the same vendor. The vendor we were using manually lit the fireworks off on the barge. It's against the law to do that now. So we had to make our show smaller last year. Less, it wasn't big boomers, it wasn't up in the sky. This show, they provide the barge, the boat, and the big class B fireworks. And they do, so we don't have to worry about getting a boat now, we don't have to worry about the barge now, they do it all. 18,000 of it is for the fireworks and 2,000 is to allow for porta potties and any entertainment that we add to the event, so. Currently.
So the only question I have is that my understanding is, like Bristol, everyone wants to set fireworks off on the 4th of July. So when you want to do fireworks on Independence Day, it's hard to find a vendor and it's expensive. If you want to shoot a fireworks big show on, let's say, July 27th, you can get a much better deal. So are we still doing Independence Day, or are we doing just some time in the
July
summer?
We haven't done Independence Day in a long time,
No,
because
I'm not paying
we'd have
attention.
to pay a lot more money to get a vendor on that day.
So you're saying this is
It's
so,
a Saturday of,
July 6th with a rain date of July 7th.
okay, so it's around
Yeah.
Independence Day, but it's not on the 4th.
Correct.
That represents a savings based on that.
Okay.
Not a savings.
That's not really even so much a budget question, I'm just asking to
Oh,
get
no,
ready for town
right,
meeting.
right.
From the number of people you see at the foot of the lake, you know the population agrees with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough, as Charlie said, he has in the past pretty
For
consistently.
me, it's a pollution.
He's pretty consistently voted against it. I think I voted for it, but I will think about it some more this year, because if the bottom line is horrible, this is a potential sacrifice, to save a little money. But we don't have to decide that now, we're not voting, we're just making sure we have all the information we need to come to a decision on our vote. And we're not voting to approve it, we're voting to recommend approval or recommend rejection.
It's the town.
The town is gonna decide to accept or reject. Okay. I think we're done with Article 11, so I'll move to Article 12. Article 12 is to raise and appropriate $87,528. Seems pretty specific. Okay, I got it, but this is about a new parking lot?
So
Property.
this is a proposal to purchase the parsonage building that's across the street on the corner and the parking lot, the church parking lot that goes with it. And it also includes the cost of demolition and limited landscaping parking lot repairs. That will get that whole project done. We've got a purchase and sales, we put a $5,000 deposit on it. The intent is to demolish the parsonage building and tie in the parking to the downtown. And we won't be able to do the whole project this year, but that is to get us the demo and the cleanup done.
This is the Baptist church across the street?
building on the,
The
Oh,
big
not the
brick-
church itself, but the church
parsonage
property, the
building,
church.
So the building is inside that, it's like, is that the one that's inside? It's like, there's
It's
a,
right in the.
It's right on the
Right
corner.
on the corner.
oh, it's on the corner, okay.
Right, so if you went outside tonight and looked,
Yeah.
it's right on the
to the
corner
right
across
of the church.
Oh, okay.
Right, so they're keeping the church and we would take the parsonage and all of the parking
Oh.
together on one property.
Okay,
But the eventual plan, not gonna happen with this, but would be all parking lot?
This would include the demolition of the building, the widening of the entrance, some green work, and some parking lot repair. And would make approximately, was it 18 or 20 spaces? Somewhere.
I think somewhere around.
Somewhere in
there,
that area,
Actually.
that would be usable, next fall, next summer.
Would
fall.
would this be a
And then-
potential location for us to do like electric car stations in the future or something like that?
It
We've
could-
talked about that, but
It
we've
could
also
be.
said we really don't have a good spot for it.
Right.
The only problem would be where would you what would you provide for electricity for it?
Yeah.
Because this will not have a building. You could
It's
tie
just
it
a
into the downtown potentially, into the poles that we own downtown, but I don't know. That would be the only problem I could see there.
There's also room, the existing parking lot is smaller than it can be, if I said that right. The property is larger, and we could add in the future those additional spots out in the back, and still provide another 15 or 20 spots, and a green area on the edge of the downtown square. They approached us, we did not approach them.
Who benefits from this?
Downtown businesses.
The town, actually, it's not just downtown businesses, residents are also in the downtown. We would benefit because we are currently using the parking for events and elections.
Very, very specific events.
It doesn't improve voting for the older people getting up that hill to store.
It does not, Walter, and I wish you would contact the church and talk to them. Because that's the best building in town to do voting at. And I'll get on my
I
side.
understand that's for sale too, isn't it?
Which building? Which building?
Marion?
Marion?
No, I haven't heard that.
I haven't heard that.
The Marion Center, the Catholic Church?
I thought I heard a rumor that was for sale too.
I haven't, but I'm not plugged into rumors, there's other people.
Well, I'd love to see it on the tax roll.
I listen to people in the wrong places.
Okay,
And the rest of it.
all right. So I hadn't heard anything, I think you had said I wasn't supposed to, so that's not a problem. Anything about this until I read this article, so I still need to think about it, but I think you've given me the information I need.
So anytime you're negotiating a purchase.
Oh, yeah, you don't wanna get that out in the public.
You have to put it in non-public.
Until you actually have
Until
the
you-
purchase and sales finally signed, and that took us a while. A while.
So I just wanted to make sure, does anyone else have any other questions before we move on to the next?
I will let you know regardless if the town purchases this, if this purchase fails, they will be selling that property.
To somebody else. So
right.
they've given us first crack at it,
First
but
crack at
they
it.
wanna sell.
Yeah. So,
They have to.
they have to.
Oh.
So, but they've given us first crack because they'd rather see the town be able to use it and do what we're talking about doing. They will still be allowed to use parking on Sundays. There will be
Yeah, it's public
an
parking, they can
agreement
use
in
it.
there,
Right.
but they rather see the town be able to take the property and do what we're talking about doing versus
So
selling
just
it.
to be clear,
Yeah.
that dollar amount includes the purchase of the property,
Demolition of the parcel.
demolition of the building, and reconfiguring the parking area with a little bit of green space. And so that's all in
It's a
that.
bargain.
It
Yeah.
is. It's a hard time, but we felt like we all hear everything about there's no parking downtown, and this is a big opportunity to provide extra parking in the downtown area, so.
Yeah, well, again,
And let the people, let the people decide.
yeah, I was gonna say, you talked about businesses, but I've heard that, and I don't really know all the details, but I've heard that most of the downtown businesses have residents on the upper floors, and those people have complained that when it snows, they got no place to park, so they're gonna be happy to get another 18
Or they're
spaces.
getting towed.
All right, are we done with 12? I think we are.
Is there any way to protect the town's interests from the people in these apartments from just taking and having them for their own parking spots?
Yeah, we have, public yes, we have, sorry.
Time limits?
Something just
Well,
let go and all
I think
can
anyone
hear
wants
is-
to park as close as their building
Yeah,
as they can. The only people I think would use this lot is if it's better than the spot they already have, and I don't think that's the case for most people.
except for the winter time, and
Yeah.
so that would actually help the town in the winter time, because dealing with those, people who have to move around based on the snow emergencies is difficult at best, and we get a lot of complaints about it, even though they all know the policy, but, and we, like mentioned, we had to tow a few vehicles to remind people of the policies, but, that would certainly alleviate a good chunk of that in the winter time.
It's a bargain. I just wish there was some way we could get something better. Or something that I think is better.
And just to clarify, when we do eventually, when the public meeting is over and we do meet to vote on our recommendations, we will also have a discussion, then each of us will have an opportunity to try to influence the other committee members to vote in the correct manner.
And I just want to add too that the board worked very hard to present a minimum number,
Yeah.
because the
First
numbers
number was scary.
Yeah, the first
We
number
kicked it
was
back.
much bigger,
Yeah.
and we worked with the engineer to cut it back and to get what the bare bones we had to do to get this project started.
I hear you. At this point, I don't know how I want to vote on this, but I think I have all the information that I need to think about it some more. So thank you. All right, I think we're done with 12. We'll move on to Article 13. So this is for raise and appropriate $405,000, which is allocations. That's not the right word. It's not donations. What's the word I want? But it's contributions to revolving capital funds, reserve capital funds. So the numbers change, the detail may change a little, but this is an article that's on the warrant every year. So looking at this, it's accrued wages. So the idea again is, someone that's been working here 35 years and they only took half their vacation, so when they leave, they get a big check. Instead of having to fund that out of the current year's budget, we put some money away every year, and so we have some money saved up for that. Same thing with the reval. We reval our property every 5 years. We don't pay for that 1 year every 5 years. We pay for it every year and make it work that way. Fire equipment. Fire equipment is hideously expensive. We don't buy it very often, but we put some money away every year so that when we do need to buy a piece of fire equipment, we have some money, hopefully all of it, at least most of it, hopefully saved up. Same thing with highway equipment. Again, some of those pieces of equipment are pretty expensive, and a lot of this is run through the Capital Improvement Committee. So that's a committee that's a subset of the planning board that tries to look at what do we see coming that we're going to need in the future, and what do we need to have put away and we actually have 2 members of that committee sitting here in this room right now. So same thing with the police vehicle. The idea is that, I think the big idea here is, for the most part, we buy a cruiser every year. But in one time in the past, it used to be that we put the money for the cruiser in the budget, and then the police department was pretty much obligated to spend it. And now what we say is we put it into this reserve fund so that if they get to a year where they don't need it on January 1st, they can wait till later in the year. They can even wait till early the next year if something unexpected happens, and we got 3 patrolmen that crashed 3 cars, and now we desperately need a car. You don't have to say, I need to wait for next year's budget to come through. I got some money in the bank. I can go get at least 1 car now.
And I think historically, there was a portion of special detail that went into this fund,
Yep.
and the fund needed to be there so that could happen.
It goes into, there's a revolving fund that's under the, separate than this fund, that I think the details go into now.
Right, and then the last one is town building maintenance. Again, I think the idea here is that we know that we have to do maintenance every year, rather than seeing it, some years we do bigger projects and some years we don't do as much. Instead of seeing a varying number, we try to pick a fairly level number and put money into this fund every year, and then when we need to fix a building, we've got money to do that. I didn't bring last year's warrant with me, so I don't have any comparing, but
$26,000 more than last year. Last year it was 379,000.
okay, and this year it's 405.
Yeah.
But I don't think we normally ask them to talk. I will tell you, so Buzz and I are on the CIP committee. We both just got on it, so I don't have a lot of experience, but we sat down and we were talking to the fire chief, and we're like, okay, so your biggest piece of equipment is the ladder truck. You're scheduled to replace that in 2037, so it's way in the future. And he was like, yeah, we're saving up, but we got $1 million in the line there, and those pieces of equipment are at least $1.5 million now. So it's not just it's not just police cruisers. Mm-hmm. Even the big ticket items are just getting hideous, so.
And we have purchases before that.
Yeah, I know, one of the engine trucks comes up before that. But I just remember that when Chief LaRoche said, no, it's way in the future, but $1 million's not the right number, it's $1.5 million, we all went.
The last vehicle we purchased on a petitioned warrant article, by the way.
Yeah.
I still.
Crazy, yes, I heard that story, I don't remember, but.
Was a little over 400,000, and that was 10 years ago. And that same vehicle now is double that. It's insanely ridiculous, but it's where we're at.
So, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not thrilled with this, but I like what Sue said earlier in this meeting. I like to think I'm a long-term thinker. If you don't put the money away now, eventually in a few years we need you to buy the equipment, we're gonna have to come up with a big chunk then. I think it's better to suck it up and put some money away now, so.
Some of these items, if we didn't do this reserve, would make this year's problem look insignificant.
So.
I just want to add the board, we started with bigger numbers.
Yeah.
This has been whittled down.
By a fair amount.
Yeah, I think we cut accrued wages, assessment, and the town building by, I think we started with some of those closer to 45 or 50, so we tried to get those numbers down.
I was a little surprised when you said the overall number's higher, because I was thinking some of those numbers looked lower than they've been in the last year or two, so.
The middle three, the fire, highway, and police, those were based on CIP numbers, so those did increase.
Yeah.
But we did try to reduce.
Yeah, because Chief Bean told us he doesn't get a new police cruiser for 45 anymore, it's 65. So
Right.
that's a big.
And that's a great point, because that speaks to that fund and the detail fund. The idea was that would eventually get to the point where you wouldn't have to purchase one a year. You could wait 1.5 years or 2 years because you had the money there. You didn't have to wait for an appropriation. But during that time, the price has gone up by 50%, so that we never get to that point.
Yeah.
So we basically put that money in and then expend it the same year. And maybe we have a little bit of money in the detail fund for, upfit, but it's sad. And on the, I used to hate capital reserve funds.
Okay.
I really did. I used to think, well, you're taking money from taxpayers that they might not spend in the future if they didn't live here, and money was almost free. It was 2%. Why would you do that? You're basically not paying any interest. I was wrong on that. And I've been told by many people I was wrong on that, and that's fine. It's a place where it's easy to say we could not spend that, and it would make things more palatable this year. But as you mentioned, we see what happens when we delay a project or.
As Charlie said, if we cut that, we're not really avoiding spending it, we're just delaying the spending. We eventually.
And you usually spend more.
Yeah.
In the long run than you would have. Yeah.
So, I did a lot of talking there, and I want to see if, does anyone else have a question or a comment?
This is the smallest number of warrant articles we've done in my time on the
My
budget.
understand, now I haven't been to a select board meeting in a while, but my understanding is the select board knows that the number coming out of the budget committee is tough, so they've been working to try to minimize the rest of the warrant articles in order to help help the total spend with all warrant articles not be any more painful than it is. So I want to point out that I think we've finished the articles that we, as a committee, are going to vote on recommending. Because I'm curious, and I think we, as a group, are pretty curious. I actually want to bring up Article 14, even though we're not going to vote on it. The question that I would ask as a voter is, how much money is this going to cost?
$37,000.
Thank you.
So
that was my question. So if we
it will change every year. Some people come off the list, they may sell their property and no longer qualify, pass away. Some come on the list, so for the impact for what we currently have is about 37,000. I will explain, this doesn't just change, so the only thing you see here is the veterans tax credit. But we have a different category called all veterans.
Yes.
Because of the way the state law is written, if you change this, it changes the other one automatically, and that $37,000 number is the both together.
Right. And 37 is not the total cost, 37 is the incremental cost to go from 500 to 750.
Correct, on the existing ones that we have right now.
So doing rough math, that'd be about 100, so we're giving about 150, I think. 150.
Whatever that number divided by 250 is.
Tax credits.
Right.
Divided by 4.
Yeah, 37,000 divided by
We have
250.
I'm remembering because I can go look it for my document, but I think it's 109 regular veterans and then all veterans is added into it. So,
Okay. So we don't get to vote on that. I was just bringing it up because I wanted to know the answer so I could figure out how I'm going to vote as a
You do get to vote on it.
I get to vote on it as
You don't
a
get to recommend it.
I get to vote on it as a town member at the town meeting. I don't get to vote on a recommendation.
That's right.
So I will, one of the reasons the board chose to put this on there is because these haven't been adjusted for I think, did I say 2007?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time that this number has been adjusted.
Well, we had to
We had to reapprove them, but we didn't
reapprove them.
change
That's what
the
I was going to
amount.
say. Okay.
We didn't change the amount, but we haven't
500.
changed the amount for a long time. And assessing is also going to be looking because values on properties have gone up substantially, but we haven't touched the amount that elderly or disabled or deaf or blind exemptions get, and for probably just as long as this one. So they will be reevaluating that over the next year. So
I didn't realize I could. So how old do I have to be to get an elderly exemption?
you have to meet income and asset limits.
Oh, I
but
don't
you
make
have
it
to
then.
be- Yeah.
Start spending them all.
So there are income and
When you're as
asset.
cheap as me, you have some savings.
I make yourself work.
You have to be 65 as of April 1st.
Oh, so
But
so that I can qualify for, but I can't get the need.
our income and asset limits are different than the states. The states are poverty level, and that will be relooked at too when we're reviewing the exemptions. So.
Okay. And then for Article 15, again, we're not gonna vote on a recommendation for this. Obviously, if we go to town meeting, and I think we'll be there, we'll be voting on it as voters, but I will comment, they had a public meeting session in the library 6 weeks ago, which I went to,
Gonna do it.
and they're supposed to do another one.
February 20th.
And I actually should be quiet because Buzz knows way more about it than me because he's on that committee, so.
Well, and I've actually seen the plan through in New Jersey, so. In New Jersey, it's called energy aggregation, which is a much more informative moniker.
Yeah.
All this is excuse me, bringing economies of scale to Bristol Eversource customers. So that instead of working on a one-to-one basis with Eversource and swallowing their rates, you are pooled with not only all of the additional customers in Bristol, but the pool now is up to 30, I believe, 37 communities
I
within
think
New
that's-
Hampshire.
Yeah.
And all of those, the residents in those 37 communities, including the Bristol residents, then put out a contract, a collective contract, which typically will result in a savings of, 5-10% off your Eversource bill. So it's just a way to to magnify your individual purchasing power by linking it to other people. And it was made possible in this state in the 1990s when energy deregulation came in. Prior to that, the utility Eversource or whatever it was,
Public service.
Yes.
Public service, yeah,
The
before
worst
the
bank
bankruptcy.
company in the world.
Right, well, they paid for it, they went bankrupt, but they were full service. They controlled their own generation, their own distribution, and their own retail services. This goes after the generation component, and you deal directly with the generator on a collective basis. You get a much better rate. Eversource continues to be you're responsible for local distribution and maintenance. And the bill, in fact, your bill will look exactly the same as it does now, except the cost of electricity portion of the bill should be measurably lower.
So the comment, just to finalize, that I'm pretty sure there will be another public meeting organized by the Bristol Energy Committee, so keep your eyes
There is.
open.
It's in February.
It's
There may be
February
another one.
20th.
And,
If you're interested, that's actually the place to go to get more detail.
well, no, actually, a very clever person on the Energy Committee put together a brochure, and there are copies of it in a plastic stand out on the table in the
Yep.
lobby.
He's also done, a very clever person has also done a voice override of the presentation, and it's shared on the town's website. We've done,
Different clever person.
different clever.
I did the brochure.
You're the very.
There's a lot of clever people.
Another
on the
clever
Energy Committee.
person. So that is on the town's website as well, but the next meeting is February 20th.
Grab a brochure on the way out.
And there are several towns with this on their warrant this year too.
Yeah,
So that 37 number will grow
yes.
after town meeting season
Yes.
this year.
The only key thing is that you will if it passes, you will automatically be entered into it. If you don't want to be, you have to opt out.
Right, if you're an Eversource customer, you get automatically put into this program, but it's not required, you have the option to opt out. So if you decide you don't like it, you can get out.
And just the reason that the Energy Commission and in New Jersey by the environmental commissions were the activists on this is because it also has an option that Eversource doesn't. Well, it has the potential for a number of options that Eversource doesn't offer, one of which is battery storage. That program is currently available with Green Mountain Power in Vermont, and I believe one of the co-ops in New Hampshire.
Utility, Liberty Utility.
Liberty Utility. But also, it will allow you to increase above the mandated level of renewables that go into the Eversource product. And you can buy your way up to 100% renewables if you want. And that's the key component for people like me who want this country to get a little more proactive on climate change. But we won't. The town will not sign. Well, the town signed the contract, but it won't go forward unless the initial generation bid that comes in affords Bristol residents a lower rate than what they're paying for Eversource.
You keep saying Eversource, so are New Hampshire electrical co-op members not?
They don't know yet how that will be affected, but currently no. Currently
No, we're not
Eversource.
part of the program.
No.
Yeah, that's what we have. I don't have Eversource.
Yeah, the whole east side of, I think, Bristol is
Yeah.
all co-op.
Yeah.
It's a co-op.
Yeah, I think 3/4 are co-op, or 3/4 of the town are Eversource.
Yeah.
So. But they are looking into how it will affect the co-op in the future. So.
Okay, so I think we're done with the warrant, and now we should move on to revenues. So we all received a, thank you for coming, Sean.
See you Thursday.
Yes. Yes.
So we,
See you tomorrow night, Les.
so this is the same thing.
Yes.
I'm gonna state the fact, so again, as part of the responsibility for the committee, after the public meeting, after we vote on our recommendations for the warrant articles that we're supposed to have a recommendation for, we'll also be asked to vote on approving or accepting, what's the right word, Christina? Approving or accepting
I
this,
think it's approving.
so we're approving this
You would approve
revenue
the
estimate for the budget year. I,
Craziest thing you can imagine.
you speak up if I get it wrong, because you're the select board and you have more experience than me, but I actually don't get very worked up about this, because we have to, by law, we have to approve this revenue estimate. And it's only January, and we're gonna approve a revenue estimate for the year, and so you would say, well, gee, am I confident? I'm not confident because I know that we tend to be conservative. These numbers probably are on the low side. But come October, I don't know exactly, later in the year, the select board will sit down and they will look at what have we spent the year, what do we expect to, what are our actual revenues so far this year, what do we think, what's our whole fix, how much money do we need to raise in taxable revenue, and they will set the tax rate. So they're gonna use an updated version of this with better numbers. So I don't get, personally, but I'm telling you, if you agree with me, don't sweat this too much, because it doesn't really affect the system. The select board are gonna use a revised version sometime in the future with better numbers. Did I kinda get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you have any questions,
This is basically just to satisfy the voters that there's money to cover.
I think it's a transparency.
Yep.
It's transparency, I think, for most part, yeah.
So there are two things, just the one, obviously, we talked about it earlier, I did not put the grant in here for the police.
for the radar stuff.
So that will be added, that will increase the budget amount. And under the actual, I think, we haven't transferred ambulance patient receipts. We're supposed to transfer 60,000 into the ambulance revolving fund. I don't think we've done that.
Okay.
So that number might come down a little. Other than that,
I got one question on it. Let's see, where was it? The school district. It doesn't,
Oh.
it shows no money coming in.
yes, so, I fixed that, and so there's two things you'll see no money coming in on. One, unfortunately, did not know that I was supposed to invoice the school in the absence of a finance officer. So I've communicated with the school, you'll see, so there's no money coming in for 2023, but you'll see I increased to 20,000 for this year, because we're gonna get two payments technically, one's for last year and one's for this year.
I wondered about that.
Yeah, and then the other one is the cable franchise fee. We haven't received it, and we're reaching out to find out why we haven't received it, so. So that might be, I'm not sure if that payment usually comes in January. It looks like it's coming in the past in December, and it's been reallocated by the auditors, so I will double check with them how that will get applied, but.
Revenues were up.
The revenues are definitely up, yeah. And we did move numbers up because based on what we were conservative on a little bit, because we wanna make sure.
Right, but we're still seeing more people asking for services that we can bill them for, and so our revenues are going up.
And one thing you'll note is the new beach permits, they're under if you look under income, like other licenses, permits, fees, 3290 is the number. So you'll see there are 4 different types of beach permits. We're not sure what we're going to get, so we estimated what we thought might come in for those new beach permits, and we tried to be conservative there because we're not sure, so.
So I will say, if you have any questions now, we can try, speak up and we can try to answer them, or we can take them for research and future. If you want to spend some time after this meeting looking through this and you have any questions, I think again, we're said that we want to try to not have all 7 committee members calling somebody for information. So send your request to me and I will compile them all into one list and send them on, and we'll get that information for everybody.
That would be me you'll send them to.
Yeah.
So water and sewer, I just want to touch base really quick on you also. So water revenues, the total matches the budget. So the total amount of revenues that on water, the total amount of revenues on sewer matches the budget. So we did, yesterday Jeff and I worked on it and we did adjust his, you were there for part of it, but we did adjust his revenues to make sure it matches the budget. But the total budget per water and the total budget per sewer.
In the other licenses, permits and fees section, 3290,
Yep.
the income from aluminum, it's listed as we brought in $0.
In the past, the aluminum was being recycled by, I'm gonna say the wrong name, VFW, is that correct, Les?
Correct.
It's in another line essentially.
So no, the VFW was taking the aluminum
Oh,
cans and they were using it as a fundraiser. They are no longer doing that. So we anticipate that we will have aluminum cans that we will be bailing.
okay.
That will be, I do believe we started doing that this year, so I think the revenues may be mixed under another line, and I was gonna.
Yeah, because we're above on income from metals. I don't know if it's there
Yeah.
or if it's basically tagged to another line that it
I
shouldn't
have a
be.
feeling it's in the income from metals because
Yeah.
that would be recycled from,
But it's
Gilpatrick's.
Yeah.
And when their receipts come in, I'm wondering if they're not booking them correctly. But we do anticipate we are going to get more from aluminum cans because we are now doing them for a full year, so.
That was a lot of work they were doing for
Yeah, they were-
not a lot of money.
Got a question?
So, yeah, the VFW was using the aluminum cans. The select board had allowed them to come in. They would take the aluminum cans and they would take and use it as a fundraiser for their work, so.
A lot of work.
And then when unfortunately, they have disbanded, this area, they've disbanded. And they are no longer doing that, so we added it back to ours, so.
Where's the VFW from here?
There's not one here now.
Okay.
It disbanded in end of November, did he say? End of November, they disbanded here, so.
So the one question that I have is, you told us that there's a rumor of a petition warrant article.
Yes,
So if that passes, some of these income numbers will change because the warrant is the question is supposedly to eliminate fees at solid waste, right?
correct.
So we wouldn't collect for tires, we wouldn't collect for electronics, we wouldn't collect for construction debris and those types of things.
If it comes in.
So if that does come in, it affects revenues, do we vote on a recommendation on that one? Or it doesn't
Yes.
affect spending and we don't get to vote?
I believe you would get to vote on that, but I will double check ahead of time, because that'll come in on the 6th.
Right,
So petition warrant articles have until the 6th at 5 o'clock. So I will be bringing them hot off the presses to your meeting. So I will make sure that I have that answer before that meeting, so.
but at this point,
If it comes in.
even if it comes in, it won't have passed, so we won't,
Right.
we have to basically assume the rules are the current rules, we can't assume they're gonna change, so these numbers this spreadsheet is correct
Correct,
at this time.
correct.
Okay.
We would have to revise them before we submit them in September.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I'm not seeing cardboard here. Are we still doing cardboard?
I'm
Or am
sure
I
we
missing
are.
it?
I have no idea what line it's on, but I'm
I
sure
know,
we are.
yeah.
I will ask Mark. We are still doing cardboard, but I think that the market is so low, but I will double check with Mark where he counts that.
Mhm.
Good catch.
Yeah.
Is it just under the recycling line?
Yeah, I'm going,
3401-100.
that's very,
Recycling NRRA.
yeah, Northeast
It's $5,000. I think it's that. I
Resource.
think it's them because they provide our cardboard report.
Yes, I think.
Oh,
I bet that's the
3401.
line.
I think 3401.
So it's that 5,000 number, $5,250. That seems about right.
Especially if it's down.
So go to section 3401, which is on page 3. Page 3.
Yeah, oh, I'm in 3401,
Yeah,
600.
first
The
one.
first line.
100.
Oh, okay,
I'm pretty sure it's that one.
okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
It is-
NRA is the.
It's certainly in a weird spot
It
compared
is,
to
yeah,
where everything else is in 3290, but yeah,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that's.
that's it, okay.
Okay, anything else on revenues?
Just a quick thing,
Yeah,
on
go
the,
ahead.
empty building by Shop and Save, what is that? I mean, is that a town burden building, or where do you get?
The old Family Dollar you're talking about?
Yeah,
It's
old
still
family dog.
owned by the owner.
And
They
so
still
do they
pay
have to still
tax.
pay taxes on
Yeah.
that and everything? Really? Okay, but they're not,
They still pay taxes, it's up for sale. I think it's still up for sale. The first sale that was supposed to happen fell through,
okay.
so,
Mhm.
but,
So we're still getting income from that is what I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
One way or another, we'll get income from it. Easy way to hard way.
Okay, so I think we're done with revenues?
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the next section of the next item on our agenda, which is meeting minutes. So the first thing, I have three sub issues on meeting minutes. And the first one I put down because I got comments from, I can mention you, right?
Oh, sure.
I just mentioned you, that wasn't fair, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize. So I'm gonna invite you to talk, and I wanted to, so anyway, I got an email from Sue, and then I got an email later, before today, yesterday, I think, sometime over the weekend, from Janet. And the comment was basically that the meeting minutes are not as good as they should be. There's not enough detail in them. Is that a fair summary of what you said? I should stop saying what you said and you should say.
They seem a little thin. The only reason why I'm saying that, I'm actually using the 19th minutes as an example. They did fix that correction that, we had put down, right? But what I feel is that was a 20-minute conversation, and basically in the minutes, there's nothing about what was said other than financial. The reason why I'm bringing this up too is because of the meeting we just had on the 23rd, which basically said communication. The biggest thing was communication. And I feel that if someone's coming from the outside and doesn't see this, if they don't, are not able to watch a video, because I'm not sure how many groups or how many committees have video. I don't really know that answer. So we're the only two, the
Select
budget
board
and
and the
the select board, okay. So they have to take really good notes. So, which is key. I mean, it's just really key and important to have that. So if you were looking at, which is what I brought this up, said then the conversations that we had about, to Rima that was here, whether or not the machines were safe, and all this conversation that was back and forth was totally admitted. All it was said was to move the bottom line. Then we go to second, Mr. Kinney, said okay. Then it was passed here. Without that addendum, now we know where the $4,000 extra money, was taken from the budget. But it doesn't have any of the information that was in that. So when anybody wants to really know what's in here, I'm just using this as one example. I know there was several that Janet has brought up, but that's not up to me to say that. But I'm just saying that there are certain things omitted. So if someone from the outside were to read these notes, they would think that this is all that happened in the conversation. So you're expecting everyone to just be able to go to a video and get their information. Not everybody will use a YouTube, or go to YouTube, or go to our own videos and see what the conversations actually were.
So the reason I put this on the agenda is that until just a few days ago, I hadn't really heard this feedback. So the minutes are structured the way that I have chosen to do them. So not only do I not want a transcript of every word that everybody says in this meeting, I tend to want minutes that capture, this is, certainly they have to capture, this is the vote we took. This is the numbers these are the motions we made, even if they weren't passed. These are the decisions we made. I personally like terse minutes. I think I want to capture the actions that we achieve, and if we spend time talking about something for 20 minutes and we didn't actually make a motion and we didn't change anything, I haven't been putting them in, or I put them in very, very succinctly. We had a conversation about, if I were gonna change those, if you said to me, hey, we had that whole conversation with Raymond about the vote counting machine and there's really nothing in here, I would probably have said, yeah, we spent enough time on that, it should be there. But I wouldn't write a 3-paragraph, I'm just sharing, I wouldn't write a 3-paragraph summary of everything that was said. I would just say, and then a detailed discussion about the vote counting machine was held, was decided not to make any changes.
Exactly.
Here.
You could have said
And that's not in there. So that should have been changed.
exactly.
And so if you had come to me and said we should change it, or we I don't know if that's the meeting you missed, we actually reviewed the minutes and people have changed. So what I'm trying to find, I'm also struggling because you and I have talked a little bit more and you had a specific example, and I think you're right, there's something missing there, but I wasn't sure if you wanted like a synopsis, a 6-sentence paragraph that talks about all the different things.
Just
that
what
came
you
up.
just said, exactly.
That would work, perfect. And Janet and I somehow are not, I mean, we've traded a little bit, but she hasn't given me the details. So I don't know exactly what she wants different. But I came back to that as chair, there's some discretion on what I can do. But as chair, my job is to be of service to this committee. So I want to get a little feedback. If you guys want something different, we can do that. So I'm looking for a little feedback.
From past experience with this in being chair, I agree with what you'd said and the additional detail about that topic. But what I don't think should be there are trying to summarize what people say. Often when you try to summarize what one person says, you never really capture what they want you to say. And I think you're gonna end up with more problems than you're asking for. That is an issue we had 3 or 4 years ago, where it said, this person kind of stated this idea, and then the person was like, no, I didn't have that idea. And we would have a discussion about that idea stated. So I think while it's a good idea to say, we had a discussion about voting machines, it pertained to these topics, I do think you leave it there.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's fine, because you're just saying that there was more,
Okay.
there was something, yeah, exactly.
Because we had the video record.
So
too.
that
Right.
particular
Well, not everyone will see a video,
Yeah.
but that's the problem.
that particular discussion with primarily you and Rayma was that December 12th?
That was the
19th?
19th.
Oh, good. That's why I put the 19th on the
There you go.
agenda. 'Cause
Exactly.
We're
That's
gonna
exactly
add that in there.
Mhm.
All right. Walter, please, go ahead.
I one time was an active member in a ski mobile club,
Mhm.
and there was no one would take the job for secretary, and I wasn't a very good choice.
But you
I
got
tried,
stuck.
and I have a recording, and I put everything I got on that recording into the minutes, and we had 4-hour fights over everything that I interpreted.
Yeah.
I was also the secretary for a union. There again, no one else would take the job, and I ended up with it. And there again, we had gigantic fights over what I interpreted. And I had every word that was said. I could go back and play it and write it out. And to the best of my ability, I put down what I heard. And every time you say too much, you end with too many capable people picking it apart.
All right.
I would say that another reason not to get into detail is because, as Charlie said, no matter how well you draft it, it won't be completely accurate, and you're opening the budget committee up to, to accusations of being biased. I'm not sure you even have to mention that there were specific discussions. I think I'm just looking at this in the new business section of this month's minutes.
Yep.
The last sentence says motion to move the bottom line. Just put, whenever there's a motion, just put in a preliminary clause, after discussion or after full discussion, comma, motion to move. And that's it. All you're trying to do is get the point across that, we're not just summarily dismissing everything, we're deliberating and considering it.
Exactly.
But you do not want to go down the road of getting into details, because you'll never get it right, and you just open yourself up to,
Okay.
a lot of sour grapes accusations.
Yeah, you want them to know that we're here actually
Yeah, so just,
going through this stuff. We're
just-
not just saying, well, we did this and we did that and we moved the number down and that's how we got there.
So
But
just
it's not
tell
really-
Shannon or whoever does the minutes, every
Yeah.
time there's a motion, just put in that preliminary clause, after discussion or after full discussion. That makes it sound like we're really careful.
Right.
3 words.
All right. So what I'm hearing, and we didn't go back, so I wasn't sure exactly how much more detail you want. I was afraid you were saying you wanted like a whole transcript, so I'm glad I'm happy to admit that I misinterpreted. I wasn't sure what you wanted.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're saying that we want to, if we have a long discussion, we want to mention that we had a discussion, but we don't have to list all of the points that were
You
made
don't.
during
It
that
was
discussion.
discussed during this about that. That's all you have to do, really. It's just that it looks
So-
like that's all we got out of this whole meeting. And I know it was like a 20-minute conversation, but we only ended
I got
being,
So what I'm hearing is there's not a need for drastic changes, and what I would say is, so I mentioned this to Janet, but I should mention it to everyone, just so you understand. Shannon is doing, I have told Shannon, this is how I want the minutes. So Shannon does the work, but if they're wrong, blame me. So typically what happens is she doesn't come to the meeting, she watches the video, she writes up a first draft, sends it to me, I review it, I send her back edits, she compiles those into a second draft, and that's what she sends to the whole committee for review. Now, when you review that, and now we come to the meeting, if for last week's minutes there's something there that's missing or there's something there that's not right, you need to speak up, you should speak up, and we'll make those changes. Okay? That's what I'm planning to do moving forward, and I'm seeing mostly this, so I think we're okay going forward.
I think Shannon does a good job.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Oh, no, she does, and she's excellent at it. It's just that we couldn't figure out why, certain things were sort of a little bit scaled down. Because if you look at the minutes from a few years ago, they weren't, it was more detailed. It was more like, and it was brought up by, Dan, and
And I also, I was the
that.
chair, and
Yeah.
some of that more detailed things that I would add in. Also, it was common back in the day that Nick would add detail in.
He would. Yeah.
It was a more multi-pronged effort in the past of what those minutes were
Yeah.
than how it's currently being done. I think this is better than what we had
when I was the chair. I think this is an improvement.
Well,
Well,
thank you.
we did start the year off where I was editing them too, but then they'd have to wait for me because I was tied up and I took myself out of the equation. I have helped her recently.
Yeah, the idea is I would say Nick was not only just adding, I think he was adding detail that what was appropriate to the discussions and why maybe the content discussions got a little bit more verbose and added than what you currently see. I think that was the decision of the town manager, and the committee seemed to like it at the time, and that's what we did. But I think this is better.
Good.
I like this better.
All right. I think we're done with that first bullet. So let's move on to the next one, which is approval of the minutes for the January 23rd, 2024 meeting, which was last week. So you all received Christina, do you have them open so that as Buzz gives you corrections, you can
Yeah, I
write
did,
them down?
sorry.
And I say that with a laugh. I appreciate it. This is not my strength to go. I joke to people that you give me a legal document and I get halfway through it, I lose focus. I appreciate that you can do this for us. So I'm not, I mean, I hope you're not taking it that I'm trying to ridicule you.
Well, regardless of how you felt, I can't help myself. 40 years.
I like to think that we have some diverse talents and we complement each other, so that's why I'm thankful. So, and if anyone else has something, but let's do those first. Go ahead.
Christina, the new business section.
Yep.
At the end of the second line of text, it says, Penny Pass Subcommittee is you should strike the word is and replace it with a comma. It's just grammar.
Okay.
And then, the sixth line down begins with Mr. Dowie is looking at 6 different grants.
Yep.
Substitute the subcommittee for Mr. Dowie. He's not working alone.
Good catch.
In highway department operations, a little more than halfway down the line begins with the word phones.
Yep.
After the word department, there's a semicolon. It should be a colon.
Okay.
Page 3. Under the 44711 sewer principle, halfway down the line begins with the word numbers. She also noted that, small t.
Got it.
And then delete the comma after the word happened further on in the line.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
And I guess it's page 6.
We'll add page numbers in the future.
Yeah, well, under staff comments, the second paragraph, in the first line, it's particularly hard to schedule, not harder.
Oh, got it, yep.
That's it.
So I don't know if anyone else has any, before I forget, because I will. I talked to Shannon, we also were saying that it would be probably helpful in the future to keep track of when these things are approved, and then in the future if they're amended when they're approved. Since we're like 90% of the way through this, I don't know that we're gonna make any big changes now, but looking in the future, I think that makes the minutes more informative. You can know when the committee approved them, and then if we go back and amend them and approve them a second as amended, that kind of, so it's kind of a revision control thing that we don't have now that we will have in the future.
Anybody who's on a land use board would see that. They would see the draft, and so if you pulled up a land use board set of minutes, they would say approved and whatever date they were approved. And then if they were amended, you'd also see that as well. So.
That's a good place to look. or
So,
formatting.
at the end where it says respectfully submitted, it probably actually should say approved by the budget committee on a specific date by a certain vote, because we do vote to approve them.
Yep.
So, we'll look to include that in the future. Did you have something you wanted to bring up, Walter?
I just want to say thank you for letting me vent.
Thank you for coming and venting.
You're a passionate and effective advocate.
All right, so,
It wasn't very
Did you have anything?
effective, but I
Nope.
tried.
all right, so I think that is it for changes. So I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 23rd meeting as amended,
Second.
seconded by Buzz, and all in favor? 6 yeses, I don't need to do anything else, so. I think we do want to amend the December meeting, right? Put in a line about the voting
Yes.
counting machine.
Yes, yes.
So I'll make a motion to reopen consideration of the December 19th, 2023 minutes. I'll accept Sue's second. for putting
Oh,
everything
sorry,
out.
yes, second, yes.
It's your thing, so I want to get you in there. So, I don't have them open in front of me. Do you want to do it, or do you want to?
Wait, I have it.
Okay. Oh, you're opening up thank you.
Yeah, it's in the January 23rd folder.
Right, that makes sense. So let me.
And this would be under the
It would be under
4140.
40,
election registration vital statistics.
4120, I believe, yeah.
4140.
4140, okay, thank you.
I put that in 4140, you asked me why. I went, well,
That's
because I
what
was
that-
referencing.
See, I'm slow,
Now
but I
you
get it
it.
eventually.
That's okay.
I think you probably want it says, at one point there's a sentence that says, it was noted that if a new voting machine becomes available and the state gives permission to, the town will be purchasing one to replace their current one, which is discontinued. I think your sentence lies well right after that sentence. So the following sentence would be about our discussion.
I opened up the wrong minutes, so I don't know if you're talking to me, because I'm
done with Sue. I think she's looking at the line.
Well, yeah, I'm just not sure where you wanted to place it.
So
That
after
could be
after
right, yeah.
discontinued and before the motion.
Mhm. Yeah, and you could just say discussion ensued on the,
I see what I did wrong.
the type of, you could say, because we talked about the type of voting machine and whatever, but you could just say the discussion continued, or before that, maybe, because we had the discussion before that. And then at the end, she said is when it would be, that's kind of a conclusion.
Okay.
She said it would be, that if a new voting machine becomes available and the state gives permission to the town, we'll be purchasing one to replace the current one, which is discontinued.
So you want your sentence after motion passed 7-0 before it was noted.
Yes,
Okay.
it was noted that, yes, before it was noted, yeah. Discussion ensued about the voting machines and whatever, however you
Yep.
phrased it. Do you see it now?
I do.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to figure out how to.
The board discussed the type of the vendor and type of voting machine
Voting
being
machine.
purchased
Yes.
and other relevant topics.
Yes, that's a good one. That sounds good.
I'm
Do you wanna say
okay with
voting
whatever,
machine?
I would
I'm
actually,
sorry, counting machine.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
counting machine.
Yeah.
vote counting machine,
Vote
right?
counting machine, yeah. Yes, because she stressed that was a counting machine. Yeah, exactly.
I want to say Sean stressed the point of the counting machine. If I remember back to what happened.
So where it says it was noted that if a new voting machine should be changed to, it was noted that
No,
if a
before
new
that.
vote counting?
Yes, we should.
I want to change that
We
as
should
well.
change that as well, yeah.
Yeah,
Can I just clarify the end of that sentence that you just said? I got, the board discussed the vendor and type of counting machine, and then I got stuck.
I think I would just end it. The kind that would be purchased. I think I would end it there.
And
Yeah,
then
that's
change the next sentence.
And then change the next sentence to say, it was noted that if a new counting machine becomes available.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
removing that word
And then
voting
votes.
does make it
Yeah.
a lot better.
Mhm.
I think I fixed it in the budget, but I will write myself a note to make sure also.
Yeah.
So many things going on, I have to admit, I'm a little bit lost, so I'm just gonna ask.
Do you need?
Is this resolved and are you comfortable with this?
Yes, I am, no.
Are you,
Yes, yes,
then,
that's good.
as long as Sue is happy, I'm willing to go along.
Okay.
So do you need a motion to approve these?
Yeah.
minutes
So we need
as
now, so,
amended?
yes, so now, yes, so we will, I'll go ahead. So I'll make a motion to approve these minutes of the December 19th meeting as amended. So we made a motion to reopen, so now we're making a motion to approve them now that they've been re-amended.
Yeah.
So I think I said that right. That's a motion. I need a second and then I'll call a vote.
Do you say it? Okay, second.
Second, thank you.
Yeah.
So motion by Paul, seconded by Sue, to approve the revised minutes of the December 19th, 2023 meeting. All in favor? 6 yeses, passes 6-0. Okay. Good, good. Agenda, that's what I want. So, oh, that's not what I wanted.
Correspondence is.
I got into the agenda of the previous meeting, which I opened by mistake. So correspondence is our next, I guess I'll go first because I did. So as I said, I got correspondence from Sue and Janet about the quality of the minutes. Trying to think if I got any other correspondence.
For me too.
I got correspondence from Charlie. I got a bunch of correspondence. Nothing was like earth shattering and no changes to the budget, but I got a bunch. I mean, obviously I get correspondence every week between Shannon and I to write minutes and things like that. So,
Are you kept up with them? Correspondence? Answering everything?
I think so.
There you go.
I think so. So I think that's it for me. Actually, I know that, I'm gonna turn it over to Charlie because I know you have a comment on correspondence that you had sent to me.
Yeah, so in your folder, you have a document called RTK_guideline. So this is from the New Hampshire Municipal Association, and it's all about the right to know law. And if you could go to the bottom of page 29.
You're burying the lead, Charlie. The bottom line here is that Paul.
I want to explain it a certain way, so it makes
I like
sense.
to get-
I'm a teacher. Let me state it like it needs to be stated.
Go ahead.
So we had a possibility of, in the last meeting, going into a non-public session. And the statement was made about the requirement of placing that on the agenda. Here it states under a section called practical considerations that there is no requirement that a non-public session be listed on the agenda for a public body's meeting. If it is known that a non-public session is going to be necessary, then it may be useful to list it. But given that an agenda is not even required for most public bodies, there certainly is no requirement that the agenda include reference to a planned non-public session. So you can hold a non-public session during a meeting without it being on your agenda. And it kind of makes, and one reason it kind of makes sense is that often you might not know that it's necessary until that moment in time that you actually want to discuss that particular.
I actually had to admit to Charlie, the 2 times I know that this committee has gone into non-public session. The first time was when I had to leave the room where you all talked about appointing me to this committee.
Yeah.
And the second time was when we asked Buzz to leave the room so we could all talk about appointing Buzz to the committee. And I don't think we put that there would be a non-public session on our agenda.
We did, with Buzz, no, can't answer for you.
That was Nick, so I
But
don't know.
Buzz's was on the agenda.
So Charlie has called out correctly, that the comment I made that it should be on the agenda is not legally required. That if we decided right now we wanted to go into a non-public session and the majority of the committee voted in favor of it, we could do that. I still do want to say that even if it's not legally required, I like the idea of not only following the letter of the law, but following the spirit of the open meeting law. I've always been told that we have to have an agenda, and now I've gone back and thought about it some more, and I'm not positive that legally we're required to. Now, I think the town would say, you've done it for so many years, we expect you to do it. I like the fact that we do it. I like the fact that we publish an agenda and we tell the voting members what we're planning to do. So if they decide they're interested, they can come. Now, we know we don't get many people to come, but I still want to give that information. So what I'm trying to say is, it might not be legally required, at least from my point of view. If we can plan ahead and put it on the agenda, I would prefer to do that. But at any time, if we have a reason to go into non-public session, we are allowed to do so. So my statement that it had to be on the agenda was incorrect. And Charlie
But there,
got that.
having looked at the, after last
Yeah.
meeting, and Janet's stuff, I took a look at the executive session portion of the Public Meeting Act, and there are very finite reasons why you can do it. And I don't remember them all now.
Well, I
It's
actually,
like seven, it's like
One
seven.
of them is salaries and personnel, things like that. But if you, as I recall, if your intent is to avoid embarrassing someone, that is not a legitimate reason.
well, I was going to comment
You
that
gotta
I
take
think
your
that was a
risks.
comment that Les made last week, and you're saying it again, and I think that that is true. So we do not have the authority to hire, fire, or conduct a performance appraisal for any town employee. So we can talk about that we want somebody to provide a different support or improved support to the committee, but I think we have to, as much as possible, find a way to handle these things. My desire would be to handle them in open session as much as possible. But if somebody proposes, my understanding, you can correct me again if I butcher this one too. If somebody makes a request to go into non-public session, that doesn't put us into non-public session, we have to vote on it. So even though I don't really probably want to do it, I will entertain the motion and I will bring it up and we will vote, and if the majority of the committee votes to go into non-public session, we will do so.
Well, the first,
As long as we have a
as
legal
long as
reason.
it's legally permissible.
It has
in the
they have to
statute.
stipulate the reason too,
Right.
yeah.
And there's very few times in my memory of being in all the different political things that there's a reason for a budget committee to go into non-public session.
I would say it's almost always due to reputation. I would say it's almost always gonna be the stated reason why.
Which
But
is
not-
not.
These others are
Not
almost
our
all,
reputations, not our personal reputations, or
But
how
the-
we might disagree with one another, that
Correct.
has to be public.
But if you're gonna, if you mention anyone, isn't that what it is? If you mention anyone who's like a member of the community, or speak of that, you can't do that in session.
that would be a good reason
That would be
why.
a good reason why, yeah.
If it was pertinent to
If it was
what the
pertinent what you're
budget
doing, yeah,
committee's
yeah.
function is.
Yeah.
I just want to add too, don't forget about the people that are watching, because all of a sudden the YouTube video is put on hold, pause, and that's the other thing to keep in mind when you're doing something like that, because you have to pause your video. If you have somebody on Zoom who is not a member of your board, they have to be put in a waiting room, so you do have to.
I would say what I've seen from when I went to a couple of select board, again, I'm stepping on your toes, but when I went to a couple of select board meetings this fall, it seemed like the select board made an effort to say, we are going to start our meeting at 5:30 and we're going to do a non-public session, and we will do our non-public work from 5 to 6 or 5:30 to 6. So if you're coming for the public session, show up at 6 and be fine. So I think what I heard Christina say, and it makes sense to me, is you don't probably want to take a pause in the middle of a meeting to go to non-public if you don't have to. So that's another reason to kind of plan it ahead and either put it at the beginning or the end of the meeting. But That's not a legal requirement, that's just a desire, best practice.
And it's more transparency.
Yeah.
Okay. Charlie, that, you didn't have anything else for correspondence, right?
You're not gonna read it all to us, eh?
If we wanna start at page 1.
Walter, did you have anything you wanted to bring up?
No, I like everything out in the public.
Buzz, did you have any correspondence or?
Oh, are we doing comments too?
Yeah,
I do have a comment.
so I was gonna say,
Oh, you can.
I think I might try to.
I thought he was skipping ahead though.
I thought we might actually, maybe I'll think about combining these, because I like to just handle them all together. So, right, correspondence? No. So now we'll do comments, go ahead.
Can I ask that, for the public hearing, the basic law of budgeting book, the PDF get placed into the folder for us, so I can refer back to it? Cause there's a lot of paragraphs about the handling of the public hearing in there that I find to be helpful to reread in the moment
Okay.
when needed.
We put the RTK file in that you asked, we certainly can do that one for next meeting.
We can also, I do it for the select board materials that they might have to use more frequently. We can create that on a folder on the computers.
That'd be great,
Those
that'd be good too,
materials,
if that and also our bylaws were in a folder like that, that budget book and the bylaws were in that.
So budget book, bylaws, and our RTK we'll put in there.
Yeah.
And then that way it's always on, it's just a folder on your desktop,
Great.
separate from your meeting, so you don't have to go back and try and find it, so.
Thank you.
So after that meeting, that's the 6th, and what else is there after that? Because I'm unfortunately missing that one, so what else?
So I was actually, so we don't have any more meetings until we show up at the high school for the town meeting in March.
So that would be the
You
last,
just-
okay.
So after that meeting, if you don't have another, you just have to come in to sign.
Yeah, but that's not a meeting, that's just,
No, yeah, but it's something to do, something to do.
And 4 of us need to come in this time.
Right.
yeah, if all 7 of us sign, that's great, but that doesn't happen most years. I don't
No.
think it's ever happened, probably. Comments?
I just have people, enough people applied to the open seats?
My understanding is that not my understanding, it is a fact that we have 3 positions on the election coming up. Charlie is ending his term and is not running for re-election. Janet is ending her term, she has already filed for re-election, and nobody else has filed as of this morning.
I filed this afternoon.
See, that's why I said that.
I forgot all about it.
But I was gonna actually, because we talked last week and you had said you were willing to run, and I was gonna say, just a word of advice, don't let it go to Friday.
Well, I came here and the place, last Friday, it was closed.
That sometimes happens,
Well,
well, they won't be closed this Friday, because they know that the filing
They have to-
deadline is ending, but,
They have to stay open until 5.
just to let you know, I've already asked at least one person and got a no. I've mentioned it to a couple of select board members, I know you got other problems, but if you know anyone for the budget committee, let me know. I've actually talked, maybe it was last week, I talked to Rayma, and then today I actually got the idea to talk to Cheryl. You're sitting there at the desk where you're providing all this service and you see lots of people. If you got somebody, feel free to wrangle them. We had somebody last year who had expressed some interest in being on the budget committee who ended up not filing for election and then ended up not then applying to be appointed. But I thought she might still be interested. I talked to a friend of hers to say, hey, let this person know we have an opening if they're interested. I'm trying to drum up some support. As I said to Cheryl, it's all legal. Personally, I just don't like empty write-in. You can get a good person, but you could also get somebody that you're not happy with, and it's not hard. If you got 10 friends, you can win a write-in election. Let's find 3 good candidates so we know. I mean, ideally we'd get more, but I'm not gonna I wanna at least bust my hump to get a 3rd one. So I'll say the same thing. I think you guys are already know this, but if you know of anyone you think would be a good addition to this committee, encourage them to show up and sign up before Friday.
I've tried several and just nobody has any interest.
Yeah, you,
I've tried several.
Sean's gonna have some time on his hands.
Yeah, that's a good write-in.
I like that thinking. I like that thinking. So, all right, that was your comment? Thank you. And you don't have, select, anything going on the select board we need to know about?
No.
Okay. So what I want to do before, I don't know if this is still comments, but I want to talk about finalizing our schedule. So we have to, before we leave here, before we adjourn, we have to agree on the firm. Right now, it's kind of, it's on the schedule, but it could still be changed. So our public meeting is next Tuesday, the 6th of February. We could reschedule it, or schedule it anything, but it would probably be pushed back a week. But we need to decide now because, I gotta be careful. I haven't read the RSAs, I don't know. But we have in the past always advertised it. So I wanna set the date so that Christina can take out the newspaper ad, that we can get it posted on the website, that we can get it out and about, that people know about it. I still think we should, personally, I still think we should still stick on the 6th because what I've heard is we know that Janet is out of, so to have a meeting, we have to have a quorum in this room. So we need 4 members in this room to have a public hearing. Janet is out of state. Les is definitely not available on the 13th, and Walter is probably not available on the 13th. So if we go with the 13th, if something comes up at the last minute and any one of the 4 of us gets sick and don't show up, the meeting is scuttled. So the 6th is more appealing because we have 5 expected. I know it doesn't work for you, but we have 5, and that way I got
Safer.
So I got a spare.
Yeah.
That if one of us somehow gets hit by a bus, we still have. You can. If I get hit by a bus, you can still carry on without me. So the only reason that I'm still kind of wavering is when we have the public meeting, we still have the ability to make more changes, but if we make more changes, when we finalize the budget, we have to have a public meeting. So if we have a public meeting and then we make changes, we have to have a second public meeting. So if there's desire to make, if somebody thinks there's something coming in the next week where we're gonna make more changes, I don't really wanna hold a public meeting on the 6th and then have to hold another one on the 7th or the 13th. But I don't think anyone, as much as I want to make more changes, I don't have any that I know to make. So I think, so I'm going to stop talking and get other people to say something.
What's important is this. Someone from the public might show up and make a suggestion that we do want to take into account. And we want that 7th open to be able to make that change.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, definitely.
You never know what's going to be said to us
Okay.
by a member of the public.
So
So I think we need that 7th date.
So the other thing,
We can always cancel it.
the other thing that was mentioned, just so you know, is that it typically in past years we've publicized it as we're having the meeting on the 6th and the 7th is a snow day. I think we're gonna, Christine, I think you had suggested this. We're gonna change the wording to say we're gonna have a first session on the 6th and a second session on the 7th if necessary.
If necessary.
So it's not a snow day, it's a second meeting if necessary.
Yes.
And if it's a snow day, it was necessary.
If it's snow day, it's necessary, and if we make changes, it's necessary. But, all right.
I also want to say that the chair should not get hit by a bus.
Yes.
The co-chair will not be here. So that means it'll go to Charlie, you know, the co-chair or whatever.
The assistant coach.
Assistant co-chair, yeah.
If you do get hit by a bus, don't damage a guardrail.
Yeah, don't do it on a bridge.
So
Hang on,
I
Veterans
think,
Bridge.
I think we're about ready to get out of here. The one other thing that I would like to do is just, I didn't really do the prep that I did before, but for the committee report, I wanted to share 2 things with you. So there was a suggestion made that you had a draft last, so fairly early, it says, we asked the select board for priorities, and then I listed the 5 priorities the select board gave us. And Charlie suggested, which I thought was a good one, that then I've got added, the budget committee agrees with these priorities. We know that town employees have resigned to take jobs making larger salaries, and there are fears of more employees resigning. Oh, I gotta figure out a way to look at this. We agree that in the long run, it's more efficient to pay a competitive wage than to lose experienced employees and then need to recruit and train new employees. So I added that. It's kind of okay, all right. And then the other thing that I have added at the end, and I kind of want your feedback on this. Let's see if I can do this right. If I can figure out how to do this. I tend to do things in spreadsheets, so I got my text and
this makes no sense.
Did you work with more efficient?
Thank you, Charlie.
There's a whole program for writing, for my
Thank you, Charlie. Okay, here's the new program. So, there's another 500, so let's see. At the end of our deliberations, we made about $78,000 in reductions. With a 7-member committee, there are 7 viewpoints and opinions. However, they can be summarized in 2 ways. One is that although we would like to make additional reductions, we do not see lines to cut without negatively impacting town operations and services. Another is that the proposed budget is too high and will lead to uncomfortable property tax increases, that we should enact additional budget reductions and minimize but accept those negative impacts. Does that summarize kind of the 2 viewpoints that we have in this committee? I mean, I have people saying they're gonna vote against the budget. Is that fair to what you're looking at it?
Yep.
And I know the first part is fair to me. I wanna make more cuts, I just don't see a place to
And I
do
don't
it.
know how to make it, what cut to make. I don't
It's a
know
tough-
where to
it's a tough
make it.
year.
And so, but I'm speaking for all of us, not only as a committee, but I'm also kind of talking about us as 7 individuals. So I thought it was important to share that if you think that that's really off the mark, let me know and I will try to do something different and better. But I think that that's a fair summary of the two viewpoints.
Yep.
Okay, but you caught me at the word efficient when you said in the beginning paragraph over there that it would be more efficient.
Yeah.
I don't know if is that the correct word that we would use?
So I'm gonna go back to that
Yeah.
one. So that's after the budget priorities. So maybe efficient's not the right word. Let me see, what did I say? We agree that in the long run, it is more efficient. Effective? It is better to pay a competitive wage?
Yeah, I mean, it's more.
So more efficient-
It's more efficient, it's not efficient.
Yeah.
Efficient is something that's totally,
Yeah,
that's,
thank you, that's a
Yeah.
good suggestion.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna change, so instead of saying that in the long run it's more efficient, I'm just gonna say in the long run it is better to pay.
yeah, it's better.
Thank you. I just did. All right, so, and, I think with the $500 reduction we did today, I don't know of anything else happening. So I'm gonna total up the numbers and put them in here, and then I'm gonna send this, probably tomorrow, but certainly sometime this week, I'm gonna send it to Wendy for her to put in the town.
$4.99. Don't mess that up when you do this.
$4.99. I'll send you the
I
updated.
can imagine you subtracting 500.
Oh, that's right, and we put 1 in instead of 0.
That's right.
I just want to be to the dollar.
And the other comment that I will make, so I don't know if you guys saw the same thing. I know there was some growing pains this year with the town's new financial reporting system. So not only did we lose Bob, but we got a whole different, one of the things that I didn't think about until recently, but I'm gonna suggest, because I might not be chair, but I'll still be on the committee. All of the numbers in the budget should be rounded to the nearest dollar.
Yeah.
I think in the past, Bob's numbers had cents in them, but he always gave us reports without cents to the nearest dollar. These reports we get with the cents, they don't really give us, I mean, it's not important, and just makes it so much more cluttered. So, I mean, at this point, we're pretty much done. I'm not gonna make any changes, but I really strongly next year just wanna work in dollars, no cents. I'm just sharing, that's a comment from me.
Is that possible? I think so. Not now, I'm not gonna say now, but I believe it will.
I'm not demanding that Christina make a big system change right now, but I'm telling her and you that for next year, I really, really want to do that.
I think it's possible. I just think it's just a matter of getting in touch with the company that we're working with and talk to them about it. So I think the only thing that one of the things you see the sense in is obviously payroll lines, because FICA, Medicare, all that gets calculated out with cents, but we can certainly.
Well, that's why I knew Bob had sense in his thing, but he never gave them to us in our spreadsheets. He always gave us.
No, the Excel spreadsheets have a formula what makes it much easier. It automatically will round up, because when you shorten the fields, the software, I'm sure
You just
there must
control
be
the
a way,
fields.
right? But
All right, that's it for me. Anyone else?
One more thing, are you including the department figure in that report too? Are you including the department figure, the select board figure, and our figure? Because in the numbers you provide in your written statement. I think in this case, it is important for us to note that, unlike past years, the select board did make a noticeable change.
So at the beginning,
To the departments.
at the beginning, the report says the budget warrant article to fund general fund operations and debt service and water and sewer enterprises fund is 9 million. This is a 4.2% increase compared to the amount last year. And then later on, I said, let's see, when department budget requests were assembled into a first draft, that total was
Okay, great, cool.
a 13.44% increase.
Okay.
The select board then reviewed and made changes and reductions to arrive at a select board recommended budget of, this would be almost 11% increase. So yes,
because
it is in there.
those two figures of the department being and the select board being that different, I don't think I've seen that in my years on the budget committee. So the select board did do more work on this budget than has been done in the past.
Yes, in the big picture, it was good. It took all the low-hanging fruit and made it hard for us to make cuts, but it was the right thing to
No,
go.
but, yeah, I noted that right away. I thought it was very good compared, knowing that what you had to do, you really made those sacrifices and did it. So.
We set our priorities early.
do. Okay. Motion.
no, well, could you skip me?
What?
So,
did I forget?
in your packets, I
Staff comments.
I know, skip staff.
I thought I guess
You did skip Scott.
So just wanted, in your packets, I just wanted to explain the one thing that's in there, the reporting, what Janet had asked for last meeting. This is what we were able to run from the software. The only thing that is missing is water and sewer. And Bob's numbers used to, didn't add in the warrant articles, this is. So, we're still fine tuning this report, so this says 93%, which is probably not quite accurate also, because we don't have the encumbrances in here yet. And the encumbrance should be added that will be definitely this week, she'll be working on that, so. But I wanted to make sure I pointed that out, and then last week, there was a question also about taxes, what was collected, what was outstanding taxes. So for the spring bill, we have 2% that's uncollected, so 98% collected.
That's
And for the fall bill, or the one that we just got, it's 95% collected, 5% uncollected. So
That's good, yeah.
there are taxes uncollected from 2014 on. A couple of those properties are going to be discussed at the board level. They've been on the board level for a little while. There's some other things that have to be taken care of first before anything's done with them. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Sorry I skipped you. All right, so now I will entertain Les's motion to adjourn, seconded by Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
6 ayes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.